Hello, hello, everybody. Pop culture curator here once again. Another fantastic Wednesday night with Gorilla's Random Thoughts, and we are here to review two more episodes of the legendary and classic Gilligan's Island the series. How are you doing, Gorilla? Doing
I'm
all
doing
right,
all
all
right.
right. I'm trying to keep warm out there.
Yeah. It's t-shirt weather right now. We got up to a whopping 33 today. It's t-shirt weather.
Oh, I guess that's an improvement at least, right? Which is always, I'm sure that you're willing to take that anytime over the freeze.
Well, if anybody's bitching about this weather here, we'll give them the negative 50 we had the other night.
Yeah, no thanks. I'll pass on that, especially me being from California. That's kind of hard to swallow. And Nemesis of Eden in the chat. Hail, and it's so good to see you, Nemesis. Let me highlight your.
Yeah. Hey there, Nemesis.
There we go. Nemesis of Eden says, Hail, hope you're having a wonderful evening, pop culture curator and a Gorilla's Random Thoughts. Thank you. And likewise, I hope you're doing well also. And I hope all of you had a wonderful Christmas. Hopefully, you all got what you wanted for Christmas. I know we don't get everything. There's so many
Oh,
videos that I was watching where kids open up their presents and it's not what they expect and they throw their little tantrums. And it's like, my God, this new generation of kids. Oh,
my kid was pretty happy there. There's a couple there he was like, okay, I'll use it. Yeah, there. And I made shorts with my one Christmas present I got from my friend Sean. I was not expecting it at all. There was three comics and then uh, another Star Trek. It pretty much tells like the behind the scenes stuff of Star Trek.
very cool. Yeah, I saw those shorts. That's pretty nice. One of them was, I guess, TNG.
Two TNG comics.
Right. Very nice. In plastic and everything, right?
Yeah.
And wait, Nemesis says, wait, that sounds like me as a kid. And Scogli, hail Scogli, so good to see you. Scogli says, cheers, friends.
Yeah.
And Resolute Germ, good to see you, Resolute. Hi, all,
Hey,
says Resolute
Germ.
Germ. Yeah, okay, let me ask you guys' opinion about this. You're probably going to shoot me now. But my sister, she had four or five boys, very spoiled brats. And that's what made me think of it when I saw those Facebook videos and YouTube videos. And whenever I used to give out gifts, I'd always start with the horrible stuff because that's what when I was a kid, they'd give you like socks and underwear first, and progressively they would advance to the best stuff, and then your last present would always be the best one, whatever
Yeah.
whatever that would be. And I remember one of my nephews, Joshua, I handed him his socks, and I had a really good. I can't remember now. This was over 20 years ago. I had a really good present waiting for him. Expensive, nice one was his top present. But I remember I gave him socks. He wrapped them. He unwrapped them, opened them up, and he said, "What the f is this?" And he threw them. I didn't want socks, so guess what I did? I didn't give him the rest of his gifts, and that was the last time I ever bought him gifts.
Yeah. Man, well, I'm still wondering at what age did I get excited to get a pair of socks?
I always knew as a kid we were poor, so I never around, but I never would have disrespected my mother like that ever. I mean, I was disappointed lots of times, many times, but I never said it out loud, and I always acted happy. I smiled and I said thank you.
Yeah. No, like I get socks like for a Christmas present every once in a while there, and it's like cool, like because I don't buy socks all that often. Like I know people who have like a real tiny little hole in them and throw them out. It's like, oh come on, I can tell there's like three toes sticking out. So I'll still wear them.
Right. Until there's five toes sticking out.
Yeah, three toes.
Three
Yeah,
toes.
that's when they start coming uncomfortable.
Scogli says I wouldn't have either, Pops. And LDG, hail LDG, so good to see
Hey,
you. Hope you were doing
hey,
well.
Pickles.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you guys think I was too harsh? The fact that I never bought him another gift again.
Yeah, I would have maybe waited a couple of years ago, or what I would have done. Go, okay, if you don't want your first gift here, fine, I will open up the other one and toss it at one of the other kids. Go, here you go. You can have this. And
Oh, no,
watch the look on his face.
what I told him then was I opened up his good present. I said, this is what I was going to give you. I'm taking it back and get my money back. And that's what I did.
Oh, okay. I still won't just give it to one of the other kids. Go, fine, you don't want the gifts? Fine, here. I'll give it to him or her or whatever.
Well, age-wise, it was only appropriate for him. His other brothers were, it was either too young or too old for it. I don't even remember what it was, but it was especially for him. And when I buy stuff for my nephews and family, I go through a lot of thought trying to find something that they enjoy.
Yeah.
And you know what's sad is now, those very same kids, well, not now, because now it's 20 years later and they're on their own. But what they ended up back then start doing is, well, can't you just give us money so we can just buy what we want? And it's like, no, that's when Christmas is over for me.
Oh, I started giving out gift cards to a couple people there just because that way they could get I know the ex there, she really likes Bath and Body Works, but it's like I'm not gonna sit there and try to find out which scent she wants, so I'll just get her like a $20 gift card there.
Well, there's certain circumstances that does work, but what that does, that just turns you into an ATM machine. You're just dispensing money.
Yeah.
And that's something they're not going to be. I bet you 10 years later, you're going to ask them, what did I get you that year for Christmas? And they won't remember. They'll remember the gift card, but they won't remember what they bought with it.
Yeah. Or
that's
like
the whole
my
reason of giving gifts.
Or like my sister there, she has 4 boys and all that. So I got her gift cards there to Hy-Vee so she could get the boys all kinds of something, or get herself like a treat for supper, that she wouldn't normally be able to get.
Right. How'd the kids feel about that?
Well, her getting a gift card to Hy-Vee?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been actually starting to give the boys books and all that I've enjoyed when I was younger,
That's what I used to do too.
Yeah, the boys get actual gifts, but I got my sister a gift card to Hy-Vee because I know she could really use that right now. And I got my other sister, it was I can't remember what the gift card was exactly for, but they're excited for that. That way they could get like the exact scents or get like a special supper treat for themselves. That like go buy like yourself and Christopher a lobster like a lobster or crab legs or something with it, or that's just for you too.
No, I understand the reasoning behind it. It's just that I don't feel that that's not a gift anymore when you do that. You're just an ATM, and there's no heart behind it. I mean, there's more heart behind giving somebody cookies that you bake yourself than there is giving them an ATM card. But
well, I make them supper. Well, I make them supper, then I give them that. That way they could all like I'm supplying the ham for this year's get together, but we all agreed not to get each other gifts this year just because it's been a rough year for all 3 of us.
For everybody, yeah.
Yeah, so we agreed just focus on the kids.
Yes, exactly. And Notice Zavine says, cheers, Scogly. And Scogly says, cheers. Notice Zavine says, hey there, Resolute German, LDG. And Scogly says, no. I hope I don't lose some subs by what I said. The people are going to think I was too cruel.
No, I would have done. I personally, I will have just opened it up and given it to one of the other kids. Go here, have fun with it. He doesn't want it.
Yeah, but that would eventually cause fights between those 2 boys.
Yeah. Well, personally, if my kid would have done that, he would have been getting an ass whooping.
Yeah, but I wasn't going to do that to my sister's kids, obviously.
No, but she should have done that.
Hey, what do we know? Hey, LDG, how are you doing?
Someone want to lose subs? I got the fastest way to lose subs. What's up? Is that what I heard? Did I hear that correctly?
I didn't say I wanted to lose subs. I said I hope I didn't lose subs.
Oh, didn't. Oh, okay, wrong word. Okay, all right, I heard wrong. Sorry. Because I could really help you if you want to lose subs. I mean, that's
probably If I get on here,
quite easy.
If I get on here and start swearing and cussing at all my subs, I'm sure I get rid of them really fast.
Yeah, fastest way to lose subs is
I can get you. I can get you into negative subs. I mean,
yeah.
If there's anybody who can do that, I'm sure it'd be you, LDG. You're smarter than the rest of them.
Yeah, that's why I left Ryan's stream the other day is because his guest just salted the chat there. Then they ignored it when I asked him what the hell did I do when he's saying everybody in the chat was disgusting. So I just fucking left.
Oh, that's not cool.
Yeah.
So
the guy was probably
go ahead.
The guy was thinking it was just being funny, but no, screw you. I don't want to listen to this while I'm getting when I'm on my way home. I'm not gonna be sitting there. I'm not gonna sit in the chat and be insulted.
Yeah, whoever the owner is, I don't know what channel that was streamed, but the owner of that should have put an end to it. I wouldn't allow anybody to do that to my people.
Yeah.
Like I was telling Gorilla before the stream, I consider my channel a neutral zone, kind of like hallowed ground. People have nitpicks or arguments amongst themselves. I prefer they don't bring it here. We had an incident last week, and I deeply regretted it afterwards that I let it happen, and I'm going to try to avoid that from now on. I don't want people hating each other. If they're going to hate each other, do that somewhere else.
Oh, I think Germ knows who I was talking about. But anyhow, Skogly here says, if I'm being generous and somebody disrespects me while I'm doing that, then all bets are off, and they need to be some serious respect earning at that point.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Germ here knows who I was talking about.
Yeah, Germ says, those guys were dickweeds. Yeah, sure sounds like it. LDG, how are you doing there? I haven't talked to you in a while.
No, I'm good. I'm holding in there. Staying alive. Staying alive. Staying alive. Upgraded my NAS recently to 40 terabytes. That was cool. I finally finished moving all my data over to the new NAS.
Okay, is your NAS
how many? Got room to breathe.
How many internal drives does it have?
4.
Oh wow, mine only has 2, and I've got like 6 external drives hooked up to it.
Yeah, see, that's what. Oh yeah, that's a nightmare. Oh my fuck. Oh, that's that's what I used to do. That. No, I upgraded from a 2, so I went from 2 6 terabytes to 2 14 terabytes and 2 6 terabytes. So was it like a 40 terabytes altogether.
What brand?
Synology.
So it is. That's the one I was looking.
Oh yeah.
Kind of on. I was looking at on Amazon.
Yeah, it costs about $800. Yep. Yeah, it's RAID, so I only have half of that. So I only got 20 terabytes, but it's all rated up. So got that redundancy, got that fail safe just in case something happens.
And the $800 is not including
that.
Right. The 800 does not include any hard drives, right? That's just for the NAS, right?
No, that was no. The NAS I only paid $300 for.
Wow, all
the drives were.
The NAS I were looking at, the $300 ones were only 2 bay, but yeah, I guess you got a good deal.
Yeah, no, I got a good deal. You got to be careful because some of that stuff you don't need. You don't need $1,000 diskless NAS. I mean, that's enterprise level. If you're just doing something from the home, you need something fast. Yeah, you shouldn't pay more than like $300-400 the max for a diskless NAS. 4 bay. Now, if you go with that 5 bay and 12 bay shit, then you're getting into serious numbers. But 4 drives is enough. RAID 1's fast enough for me. So 20 terabytes now. With all my data moved over, I still have. What is it? I still have like 10 terabytes left over, and that's just on the NAS. I mean, I still have 4 terabytes on my secondary hard drive on my computer. So that's my first drive is that, and then everything gets stored on the NAS after it gets past that hard drive. So
yeah, that's the way to do it. And Scopely says Pop Sanctuary. Yes, I'd like people to think that. And Resolute Germ says, I remember when TV was a lot. Boy, times have changed quick. Oh, yes, they have. The last one I just bought was 14 terabytes. In fact, I'm getting all my stuff migrated over to it now, all my TV files.
And see, I only have 1 terabyte.
Yep. 1 terabyte.
So I can go back to it. Yeah, I had to shut down my torrent because I was running out of disk space. So now I can finally turn that back on.
Yes.
And getting back to freeing the net.
Yeah, I was running out of room, and I bought a little 5 terabyte external and attached it to my laptop. And I've been using that for several months, and I thought, no, I've got to just break down and go buy another external Western Digital, so I went and got a 14 terabyte. So that brings my NAS up to about, I think about 50 terabytes now, 50, 55, 60, somewhere around there.
Nice. Yeah, I'm liking those Western Digital Pro drives. So
yeah,
anyone
yes,
look at drives, look at the red. They have red, not red, but red Pro drives.
oh, okay, very cool. That's good to know. I learned not to trust Seagate. I don't like that.
Oh fuck! I gave up on Seagate long time ago.
Yeah, I lost a lot of really good stuff because I made the I didn't I figured, oh, they're all about the same. No, they're not. No, they're not.
Nope, no, they're not. Western
So
Digital is the way to go.
It is. I remember. I just think, guys, it won't be long in the future where we say terabyte. Oh, that's nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're getting there. In fact, that reminds me. My laptop. This is a cheap laptop. I paid like $300 something for. Like, I think about 2 years ago. 4 gigs of RAM, and I think it's 256 megabytes, maybe 512 internal hard drive. The SSD. That's the reason why I had to attach an external hard drive to it, because the internal hard drive is crap. So this year I decided, okay, I'm going to beef it up. So I just purchased 32 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte internal. So I'm hoping now I can start editing my videos better, because I was editing videos.
Guys, needs terabytes.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is I was editing videos together using an editor. And it started telling me that I was running out of space. And I started deleting stuff. But I think what's going on, and you could probably confirm this for me or deny it, but I think when I'm editing a video, while I'm in the edit mode, I'm thinking that it's storing that video inside the cache. Because I have plenty of
scratch disk.
Right. That's where I was running out of room. So it got to where I made a video that was like 15 minutes long. And I barely got through that because it kept telling me I was out of memory. So that's why I went and bought these other memory. I'm hoping now I can finish, because I've got a lot of videos that I shot in LA. I haven't even been able to post them yet because I ran out of room. So they're going to be they'll be a little late in coming, but I'm hoping with the internal hard drive, the SD card delivered from the UPS driver, and I watched the guy out the window. He delivered our other orders, but he didn't deliver my hard drive, but he scanned it as delivered. So Amazon made me wait through Amazon made me wait through the Christmas holidays, and then they finally let me reorder yesterday, and I'm supposed to have it by tomorrow. So I'm going to crack open this laptop, because I already have the RAM, and I was just waiting for the hard drive. And as you know, I had to buy an SD enclosure so that I can clone the drive. So those should both be here by tomorrow, and then I'm hoping to get this thing beefed up.
Ooh.
And I hope it'll fix. I've had audio issues where my audio drops out, where I get pops and clicks, and I don't know if that's the RAM or not, but I'll know when I beef it up, I guess. So LDG, we are going to be reviewing Gilligan's Island. Are you going to be here for that? I don't know if you're a fan of Gilligan's Island or not.
I always like to listen to your reviews. Usually, and I'm actually, I'm going to be going to bed here shortly, so I might just let you guys go at it and just put you on while I listen. But I did want to pop on and say what's up real quick. So,
well, I appreciate you being here, sir. With due respect, thank you so much. Yeah,
I barely remember those episodes. I couldn't input much. But I do enjoy listening to your reviews. So,
John, it's the same here. As I barely remember them because it's been years. So I have to watch them right before the reviews to kind of, it brings me up to date on them. And then since it's been so many years since I watched them, a lot of things have changed. Now that I'm older, I can spot a lot of things, and I think about them differently than I did when I was a kid. Because when I was a kid, if I would have reviewed them then, it would have just been like, ha ha, that's funny, that's cool, ha ha, funny, cool, funny, ha ha. And now we can look at it through adult eyes. It's a lot different, a completely different show.
Oh, especially now with everything's being so much shit. Yeah, it makes us want to go back to the old good stuff.
It is, and it's particularly tonight, the second episode is a lot about women's rights. And what they show in the episode is probably would not be allowed these days. It would be considered toxic, I guess, woke. or non-woke. People would say it's not woke. That's the problem, but I don't care. It was innocent. It was a product of its time back in the '60s. So I'm not going to make
Hmm.
excuses for it. Obviously,
Yeah, see, I say the same thing about when I do my live streams. I like to think my live streams are under the content that people consider you can't do that today. Well, guess what? I'm doing it.
that reminds me, real quick before you go.
Yeah.
Have you heard of any problem with people having trouble logging into Twitter? Because it logged me out
Yeah,
of my
Twitter's
PC.
going. Yeah, Twitter's going through a major foul up right now. So they're trying to either push an update or they're getting hacked. I'd like to think it's the former. I think Elon might
But
have
it
pushed a
sounds
bad
like
update.
but it sounds more like the latter. He's got a lot of enemies right now. So
Yeah, it's probably
True, but they
DDoS
have
attack.
major security. I mean, Twitter's got security, so I mean,
yeah, of all people, you'd think he would. Yeah.
yeah, I think maybe it was just an update gone wrong, and this is one of the things that I talked about when Mr. $45 billion for free speech when it only cost 300 million. I was gonna say Twitter could be so effed up that he might try to push an update that cracks the system because Twitter isn't free speech. It's not made to be free speech. It's not a true public platform. It's the same thing, no different than in any others. It's not gonna. It can't you just can't say, oh, let me just add this to Twitter. Like you literally got to make sure it fits. You just can't throw a V8 in a Pinto. Well, I don't know if you can. I'm just hoping that's a good analogy, but
People
you just
did it.
can't
People
do
have done
stuff
that.
like
Yes.
that. Yeah, or a V8 inside of a Volkswagen Beetle Bug.
Right.
I
Or
mean,
V8 in
I
a
think it's
Prius.
too big. It won't fit. It's too much horsepower. It could break. You just can't add features to Twitter, especially when it's built to be a private publisher and not an actual free speech platform. But we'll see. But yeah, same thing happened to me. I tried to run Twitter and it logged me out, acted all funny. I thought I was banned from Twitter. I thought I got blocked. I had Bird check to see if I was good. And then eventually it came back. So you just got to wait. Just wait and then just retry it in like in a half an hour and see if mine fixed. I mean, I just waited about like 20 minutes and it fixed itself.
Gotcha. Yeah, I
So.
noticed it. It was okay on my Android phone, but it was my PC that logged me out.
PC that logged me out. Yeah, same here. So yeah, something's going around.
Well, see, that's why
I
I
wouldn't
was
fuck
thinking.
with it. Just let it be.
Well, I did. I just stopped. That's why I didn't post tonight's stream. But that's why I was thinking of hacked because it seems like if it was an update that went awry, he would have posted saying, "Sorry guys, we're working on it. We'll have it back up in no time." But we haven't heard anything from Twitter. Have they announced anything?
Yeah. No, I doubt they would. But
They
like I
will?
said, it's working fine now for me. So you just gotta wait a little bit. You'll be fine.
Gotcha.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
But
There's no
all
hurry.
right,
I can live without it, obviously.
No worries. I'll let you guys get to it because I'm gonna lay down here and get to sleep. But hey, real quick, have you been seeing my tweets, my AI art recently
I've been seeing your
on
tweets.
Twitter?
Yeah.
I've been
Okay.
staying off of Twitter.
Did you like the Kool-Aid one?
I don't remember if I saw the Kool-Aid one. I haven't been able to check Twitter all day. When did you post it?
Oh, okay. No, that's fine. Next time you do it, go check them out. I'm doing some really cool. I'm getting some pretty good views on it too, actually. Doing some AI, controversial AI art. So like one of them was like drinking the Kool-Aid, and the Kool-Aid is labeled free speech.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta be careful because if you could kill you if you practice free speech, But anywho, got some cool ones there. All right, guys.
I will do that.
Thanks for having me. Always.
Thank you.
Gorilla, Pop,
We'll see ya.
chat.
Have
Love you
a
guys.
great-
And tomorrow, I don't know when or where, but thanks to Bird O'Prey singing, I have AI Bird O'Prey version 4.0 tomorrow. Can't wait to see how good it sounds. I'm gonna see if I can. I'm gonna see if I can, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to. What I can do is I can take a music video, and I can rip the person's voice out of it, and have birds singing, the AI birds singing the song, and then put them back into the song, replacing the original singer.
When you say AI bird, that means you don't have to have him singing the actual whole song. You just have a sample of his voice, or what? How's that?
I just record him every time he live streams. I record him and I add it to the AI. Yeah.
And the AI
and then
can manipulate it into words.
Mimics his voice. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Oh,
Yeah, we have the technology.
Anyway, that's going to be tomorrow, and I'm always available in the underground, freethenet.org/underground. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Be
Thank you.
good.
Have a great night.
Later.
I need to post a link for him. I think I have it. Let me see. I'm going to test out my stream elements. And hail, Ola Greg. So good to see you. Let me show your.
Yeah.
And there we are. Ola Greg says, I'm okay. A delicious virtual beer will always make things better. Yes, absolutely, Ola Greg. And did it work? Did it work? Well, I don't think it worked. But I'll keep working on my stream elements bot. Shame on you, stream elements. Okay, so without further ado, does anybody have anything to say before we start this episode, considering we're now 30 minutes late?
No.
Hope I didn't lose any people on the rewatch. If you're watching this on the rewatch, I apologize. So now I can tell you, skip forward about 26 and 27 minutes if you want to get straight to the Gilligan's Island review. We're going to be starting that now. I appreciate you all for your patience for being here. I know we were a little off topic tonight, but we'll get started here. I usually read an excerpt from Inside Gilligan's Island, the book by Sherwood Schwartz, but tonight I'm going to forego that, and we'll go straight into the stream. And I know it's late for a lot of people, so I'm going to try to get through the stream as quickly as possible tonight. So without further ado, let me share my screen, and then we'll get started. Hope I won't have too many audio issues tonight. All right, here we go. And we have our usual opening. Oh, by the way, this is our first episode, which is Gilligan and the Jungle Boy, starring the very young Kurt Russell. And believe it or not, for you guys, I actually had to try to explain to Gorilla who Kurt Russell is. He didn't know. But yeah, Kurt Russell's a big name in Hollywood now.
You did? When was this? Was this last week when I watched the wrong episode?
No, it was during my streaming my rumblings from the lab on Monday night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was trying to tell you, but you haven't seen like the Thing and all of his big stuff. And I told you he was in Guardians of the Galaxy, and I don't think you said you haven't seen that either.
No, I don't remember Guardians. I've heard of it, but I don't remember it.
Well, Kurt Russell is a kick-ass actor and character. He's not woke, so he's all alpha male, which is excellent. His son Wyatt is really doing well right now in Hollywood. He's up and coming, so maybe Wyatt Russell will end up being popular. That's right. You said you hadn't even seen Escape from New York. I was naming up all these classics, and you never heard of them. I was like, wow, okay. Yeah. Did you see Big Trouble in Little China?
Nope, never even heard of it.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, we're going to do some serious catching up for you. We'll do some watch parties, and we'll catch up because these are some classics. I wanted to mention something really quick about this episode. This boat here, the boat that they used for the actual episode, for the series, when they shot Gilligan's Island, they were looking for a boat to be perfect as the SS Minnow. So in this shot right here, what you're seeing is actually a different boat. They just took if you look closely, you'll even see that there's just a label slapped onto the side of the boat that says SS Minnow. But the actual minnow that you see in the series, the boat you see with the holes in it and all that kind of stuff, and it shows them sleeping on top of it in the first episode. That was a junk boat they found. The producers found a boat that was not operating, that had a bad motor, and they had that towed to the location in order to shoot the series. So whenever you see that boat in the series, like during the opening scenes and during some of the at the end, we said we worked for the show. They bought it not working with no motor. So that's a little behind the scenes that I had been forgetting to mention, and I wanted to make sure to remember.
Yeah. And Ola Greg says, while he watched Violent Night.
Yes, you did watch Violent Night. You know what? You know what's sad is I love Killer Santa movies. But unfortunately, the guy who's playing Santa in that is the man that was in Black Widow, and he was the ultimate beta cuck in that movie. And because of what he did in that movie, I'm never going to watch him again in anything, ever again. I know a lot of people say, well, you got to separate the actor from the role. No, No, what he did in that movie was so despicable towards men and two men. No, he's like James Cameron. After what he said about men now, he couldn't pay me to go see Avatar. In fact, today's news, James Cameron came out and said he deleted 10 minutes from Avatar 2 that had guns in them because he didn't want to show guns. So it's like, no. He's in my past. I will never watch another James Cameron movie again. So here we have the boat, which was not the boat that was seen on the island, but the one they used just for this shot with the cast heading out to harbor. And I just realized that's a Texaco sign there way in the background. You can see a star on it. That's Texaco there on the left.
Okay.
And the hits. And that's the prop boat.
Oh. Nemesis has a question for you. Yes, what did James Cameron say about men?
He said testosterone was toxic and that men need to get it out of their system. Like he did. So I guess he must be getting estrogen injections, right? I guess that's what he wants us all to do and grow boobs. Okay, and there's Alan Hale as the skipper. And now we have Mr. and Mrs. Howell and the beautiful Ginger, played by Tina Louise. And by the way, as a reminder, everybody, coming up here soon, I'm going to do short bios of each of the stars with a little bit of background history and some scenes of some of the other things they've done. And I'll do like one of the cast, one person each week, kind of give us a little bit of background so you guys can understand them more. A lot of them were things other than Gilligan's Island.
Alrighty.
So, created by the fantastic Sherwood Schwartz. Produced by Jack Arnold. Once again, he directed Creature from the Black Lagoon, among many other classic movies. And written by Al Schwartz, Sherwood Schwartz's son. Directed by Lawrence Dobkin. Here we have Gilligan searching for bananas.
Yeah. And Oiler Greg says, I lost an outboard motor overboard on a fishing trip once. Oh, that sucks.
Were you far away from the beach? Hopefully it wasn't too bad for you. And somebody just... Oh, okay. And here we have Gilligan eating the bananas. And... Yes, I guess that is a big banana there, LDG. Thank you.
God, that just reminds me of a whole conversation me and one of my buddies had there that I can't even say it on YouTube. There, YouTube won't even wait for the stream to end.
Yeah, we can talk about it in the back room after, I guess.
There's a whole new other, let's just say, a hub for that conversation.
You know what I think about it? I don't even know if I've even seen bananas that size in years. I don't think they bother growing them that big before they sell them.
No, they got them at our grocery stores.
The big ones like that?
Yeah, usually they're organics.
I'll pass on the organic.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay double the price just so they can put an organic label on it.
Yeah.
Non-organic food has never poisoned anybody, so I'm happy with it.
Well, that's just basically what Walmart has, and they're the exact same price. So I just grabbed the ones that are the greenest because we don't usually get to all of them. I got to learn to buy half of what I think we'll eat for bananas.
They're the same price as the regular ones?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, here in California, they're definitely higher.
Yeah. Other Greg says, I got towed back to the dock by some puzzled fishermen. Well, at least you had some nice fishermen there. Okay, that is the wrong still right there. The wrong
there
still.
There it is.
Right.
Yeah, if LDG liked the last one, he'll definitely like this one, huh?
All right, LDG, where's the comments there? Where's the comments?
Now, Gilligan is shocked because he hears a Jungle Boy screaming. So it's like a
little... No, he thinks it's a monkey. He thought it was a monkey.
Right. He thinks it's a monkey. But it's like a little Tarzan. And he squeezes the banana and it falls. And he says, who's there? And here's where he's not really sure what it is. Maybe it's a man-eating lion or a hungry tiger, he's thinking. But lions and tigers aren't on deserted islands, are you? Are you? I need to check the. I didn't get a chance to go in and check the subtitles and make sure they're correct. I usually do that, but so we might have some errors in the subtitles. I apologize.
I don't know. Yeah, and LGG confirms. There it is. Bingo! Oh, whoops! I just heard a stir from the kid. I think I woke him up with that one.
And here's where Gilligan spots the Jungle Boy in the tree. You recognize that tree? That's the same one the Japanese soldier was sleeping in last week, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Wait, kid. Wait. Take it easy now. So he's trying to talk to the kid, but the kid's just ignoring him. The kid doesn't understand English, apparently.
He doesn't understand anything. I don't understand how a kid that doesn't know even basic words and stuff is able to survive out on its own. He would have died.
Well, I think what they're doing is they're basing this loosely on Tarzan. And in that, what happened was there was a ship that stopped and the boy left the ship and the boat. They could not find him. They left without him. And when he went back to go looking for them, they were long gone. And he had to end up living off the jungle. And that's where Tarzan became Tarzan. But in the Tarzan story, the animals helped raise him.
Yeah, see, the one I seen is the ship sank and the only survivors was his parents there. Well, they got busy in the tree house there, and he was born a couple months later, like a year or so later. And then his parents were killed by a cheetah. And then that's when the mama of the alpha gorilla there took him back, and they decided to raise him as one of their own.
Are we talking about, dare I say the word, a Disney version of Tarzan?
Is animated.
Yes. Well, I advise you to check out real Tarzan. Don't check out anything from the Disney skewed point of view. One that sticks fairly close to the book is called Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes. It's the same guy that played in Highlander, the original actor from Highlander, Christopher Lambert, and I recommend that one. And here we have the Jungle Boy is swinging from the vine while Gilligan is trying to talk to him and grab him. Right, I guess they call it hooting. So Gilligan grabs a vine which just happens to be there and swings from it. But unfortunately, Gilligan crashes. And here, I thought this was funny because the professor built a fan. And there he is pedaling that fan to keep the skipper cool. And I'm thinking, would the professor really do that? I'm not going to understand building a fan, but would he waste his time and energy just keeping the skipper cool? Unless they were taking turns, maybe, right?
I think they were taking turns.
It is on a tropic island. I'm sure it can get hot. Oh, Professor, that works great, just like a regular fan, says the skipper. This is better. You don't get electric company, bills from the electric company each month. And here comes Gilligan rushing into the scene.
Well, they made a joke about you got to patent this. It goes, I sent my patent into the DC office, but I don't think they got it.
Right. And Gilligan comes running into the scene all excited, trying to explain to them about the boy. And he's telling them that it's swinging from tree to tree. And they even refer to Tarzan. Oh, Gilligan, me, Tarzan, you, Jane, him, boy. So they're kind of mocking Gilligan. Once again, they don't believe him.
Yeah. See, this is where I get a little pissed with the professor and Skipper. You know, Gilligan, he's actually, I think the thing is, Gilligan's actually real smart, but people have treated him kind of like crap and mocked and belittled him and made him think he was stupid probably for most of his life, and that's why he's the way he is.
That's why, right? We were talking about that in an earlier episode. We're thinking maybe he might be on the spectrum.
Oh, no. I think he's real smart, you know, but he's been like, look how much every time he says, hey, I seen something. There is something out there. Skipper's like, yeah, right. Yeah.
And in fact, you notice most of the time it's the skipper and Gilligan, skipper and professor that usually do that.
What the hell is this? Hi, I
Wait,
want to
don't
offer a promotion to your channel.
follow Scolger. Hi, I want to offer a promotion of your channel. Viewers, quality is guaranteed to be the best. Do I have any wrenches that can block that? That's a spam bot.
That's on Twitch. That's a
Oh.
Twitch one.
I can hide it here, but I don't know if that hides it for everybody else.
Yeah. No. Well, if it's on Twitch, you know they'll offer you promotions and all that. But if it's on YouTube, it's a porn bot.
So I'm guessing that since it's on Twitch, I have to actually log into Twitch, and I could probably stop it there. But I'm not logged into Twitch right now, so I'm not going to go there. So hopefully we won't get any more of these. If we do, then I'll go there. And let me try to catch up on these.
Oh, we're all caught up on chat.
There it is, bingo. Yeah, okay, there we go. All right. So Gilligan is trying to explain to them about the Jungle Boy they saw, and of course they don't believe him, and they think that it's fantastic stories. It's always like the plot of The Boy Who Cried Wolf, is what it seems like always.
Yeah, and Gilligan's always right, but yet they treat him like shit every week. It seems like.
Well, remember now, he's not always right. Remember when they had the Japanese soldier, he thought it was a sea monster.
But he still saw something. There was still something out there.
He did see something, but he
identified it.
Right. Right. Yes. And that's because he wasn't aware of it. And by the way, Alan Hale Jr. was he served in World War II in the Coast Guard. So the skipper in real life actually served in the Coast Guard during World War II. And his dad died in 1950, and that's when his dad gave him that ring that you can see on his left hand there, that pinky ring. That's from his dad, Alan Hale Sr. And they're asking him, are you sure it wasn't a monkey? And Gilligan's telling him, no, a monkey is real short and has hair all over it and goes like this. And Gilligan's impersonating a monkey, and he's saying, that's another thing, too. I know it's a nitpicking little thing, but if that kid was on the island all those years, he'd have like really super long hair, you would think, right?
Yeah, or was he kind of like shipwrecked there, kind of like they were?
Well, he wasn't, and you think he would know some English. And you would think if he was shipwrecked, that that they haven't showed him really meet the castaways yet, but obviously he will a little later here. But you think if he was shipwrecked, the first thing he would do is take his castaways back to where his boat was, right? But who knows? That's why I was thinking maybe, obviously they don't explain this, so we're kind of guessing. So that's why I'm guessing that he was left on the island accidentally, because he doesn't try to take them to show him who brought him. But that's just me guessing. And here's where they're confronting Gilligan. They don't believe him. So Gilligan takes the skipper and to where the tree is to show him. And he says, this is where I found him. I think he lives in that tree. And of course, Skipper here pretty much mocking him. Well, why don't we knock on the tree and see if he's home?
Yeah, Skipper's just being a dick in this.
Right. And Gilligan saw him for a second, but by the time the skipper turns around, the boy's gone. But the skipper, the only he sees a bird. So that's why you'll hear you see Skipper saying, Gilligan, you didn't tell me he had feathers. And they said, no, he didn't. And of course, Skipper looks up just as an egg lands on his face. And Skipper said, that wasn't even a boy bird. And here we are. And here's with the boy. I don't do that. I know you're not there. The boy is making a kissing sound towards Gilligan. And at this point, Gilligan's just trying to ignore him because he knows it just gets him into trouble. And now he finally got to grab a hold of the Jungle Boy. And he's yelling, anybody. He's trying to call up the castaways to let them know. And like I said, that's the very young Kurt Russell. Oh, Gorilla, you know who Walt Disney is, right?
Yeah.
Kurt Russell, that boy you see right there with Gilligan, he started doing a lot of movies for Walt Disney. He did a lot of Walt Disney stuff in the 60s.
Okay.
And word has it that when Walt Disney died, when he was laying on his deathbed, that the last words out of his mouth was Kurt Russell.
I
So
thought Walt Disney was frozen
no,
underneath and
no, that's all fake. No, no. What did you hear? Frozen underneath what?
I thought
It's
they
always a different story.
Yeah, I thought he was cryogenically frozen so that they could bring him back to life there later on.
Yes, that rumor went around in different versions for years. They even said, like I heard that it was just his head that was cryogenically frozen. But the truth of the matter is, the man was not cryogenically frozen. He was buried like everybody else, and I've actually visited his grave in Hollywood. But here we are, Skipper. Tried to talk to the little boy, but like I said, the little boy does not understand English. All the boy does is repeat everything Gilligan says. And the boy wants to play ball. Oh, he's so young there, it's hard to believe. So no, we're not going to get any place this way. So Gilligan's getting frustrated because the boy doesn't understand him. And the boy's yodeling. And this is when he notices the boy is playing with this mound here. And there seems to be air or gas seeping from this mound. Kind of like a miniature, as you can see, like a miniature volcano. The boy keeps a rock on the top of it to cap it. So at least the boy is smart enough to cap it. Let me see if I can show that. There it is. There's the rock that's on the top. And once he removes that, air is blowing out of that hole. And he's excited because he wants to show Gilligan. So he takes half of a coconut and holds it over. And supposedly, and I'll be upfront with this. Supposedly the coconut is floating from the stream of air shooting out the hole. But in reality, everything you see in this episode, you can clearly see the wires. You know, I have to admit, back in the 60s, you know, with TVs, the quality they were, you really couldn't see them as well. But now with high definition, you can see every single wire. So, yeah.
I don't see the wire, but I don't see the wire, but I did notice there's like the area behind Gilligan's head and all that, and when he was floating around was kind of a little bit blurrier than the rest of the thing. Like they edited out the wires.
Well, we will bring that up. That's where he's inside the balloon, supposedly, right?
Well, I think he floats out. No, it's when he's floating outside of it too.
Okay. All right, we'll cover that. All right. So here's the coconut. Gilligan's excited, so he puts his hand under it, and the coconut slowly rests to the ground. That's a bad edit there. And the coconut lands in his hand. Gilligan looks into the hole, and now his hat blows up in the air. And Gilligan is not really sure what to do. He's frustrated. He covers the hole, and the hat comes down and lands back on his head. And that's where Gilligan tells the boy, give me the rock and I'll cap it. So Gilligan knows who to cap it, because what's interesting too is they should not be inhaling it because it could be deadly fumes. So if I was on an island and I saw that coming out, I'd be like, yeah, sure, cap it. We could use it maybe, but you might strike a match and it might be flammable. You don't know. It could be natural gas.
Cool.
And
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, that would be nice, but I would step back, like lights, like something on the end of a stick, and then stick it over the hole. I wouldn't, like stick my head over it and then drop a match into it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I have to mention this really quick.
It'd be a lesson well learned.
Yes, yeah, definitely a powerful learning lesson at that. Well, the Rex says cheers, right?
Yeah,
and go ahead.
There's a place over there in I believe it's in Africa. There could have been the Middle East. There, they dug into a natural gas cavern there, and this was before we were using it there, and they decided, just start it on fire and let it burn out, and the thing is still freaking burning today.
Yeah, that's not very wise.
Well, the Soviet Union did that, but I can't remember if it's in Africa or like the Middle East.
All right, you've seen those big tanker trucks that haul gas, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When I was in the Air Force, I worked on the flight line, and we had those same tanker trucks. We used them to refuel aircraft. And when they were doing safety training, that was one of the lessons they brought up. Is that at some point, some fool climbed up on top of one of those because he wanted to see how much gas was in it. He opened the cap and he used a match to look inside there. Isn't that smart? Right.
Public education's been very good to me.
Right. Little did he know that
Sorry.
Little did he know that his stupidity went very far in teaching a lot of people what not to do.
I'm sorry, that was not right. I apologize.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine, Gorilla. I feel bad. I shouldn't say stupidity. I'll say naivety. He was naive, I guess. Or
Oh
foolish, yeah.
no! I got a whole other word that starts with an R that we could use for that.
Oh yeah, be careful there. Okay, so Gilligan's excited. They capped the mound, the hole, and they're going to head back to camp to share this with everybody. He's explaining to the boy to follow him. So here we are back to, I don't know why I call it camp, but it's back where the huts are. And here's where they're explaining that this professor took that fan and converted it to a wash machine.
Hey, I got a question here.
Yes.
So everything's around a central location. Their washing machine, their little fan, their table, their garden, everything they built all around this general clearing there, even the 4 huts.
Yes.
There.
Remember now, they've never established 4 huts yet. I thought about that too. And we'll find out in the next episode, right?
Well, we've seen the girls' hut. We've seen
the Howl's hut.
Yeah, we've seen the skipper's hut.
And the Howl's hut where they're in the Howls were playing pool, remember?
Yeah. Then you got the supply hut.
Right. And then you have the professor. He had his own hut where they showed him at the table. They're working on experiments and things, right?
Yeah, so it's been established there's 4 huts.
Okay.
But so anyhow, we've had 3 airplanes fly over the island, and not a single one of them's been able to see all this stuff built up and up there in the clearing.
I guess they're assuming that the planes are too high or they haven't looked down. If the planes are just flying over random islands, maybe they had no reason to look or to look with binoculars. Or
no, well, the one gal even said hi to him down there, whoever you are. That one.
Well, that's true, right?
And the one was specifically scouting the island for any kind of inhabitants because they were testing that missile. It was a specific scouting for inhabitants.
You mean the one where they had the missile?
Yeah.
Right.
That was his sole job.
Which apparently he didn't do that. You had one job. One job.
Yeah, so therefore he didn't do his job very well, but that's something that should have been they should have been easily being able to spot all this man-made stuff, and go, hey, there is someone down there, and the one lady got actual technical contact with someone down there.
Well, think about, right, that was over the radio. But think about this. If let's say you were that lady in the plane up above and you hear somebody on the radio, you don't know exactly where that's coming from.
Yeah, but as it was flying over, she says, hi down there, whoever you are.
Right, but I'm saying is that haven't they established that there's a group of islands and that the castaways are on one of them?
I'm not sure if they established that there's a group of them.
Well, if they haven't, they will, because eventually we get visitors from other islands, right?
I can't remember.
Well, we will, including Jim Backus's real life wife, Henny. Henny Backus. She will play a native from another island in a later episode.
Okay, and Nemesis says, "Don't inhale the poison vapor from the geyser." LOL.
Right, you don't know until you find out what it is. First thing y'all would do, obviously, what we all do is get the professor. He can identify it. So here we are back at base camp, and the professor is helping Marianne with the laundry by pedaling the wash machine. And here comes Mr. Howell.
Yeah, you mean the skipper, not the professor.
Oh, that's right. Thank you, Skipper. I don't know why I get these names mixed up.
Well, we were just talking about the professor.
Right. And here comes Gilligan. And Skipper Gilligan walks over, and what Gilligan is doing, he's playing like a hop, like a kind of like a rabbit, to try to lure the kid into the base camp. So he's hopping up and down, and when he gets into base camp, as you can see, Skipper's giving him that look because he's like, "What are you doing? If you got to help me, Skipper, it's no use." Gilligan's back is stuck from all that stooping over. So Skipper uses his knee to straighten up Gilligan's back, and he tells him, "Nope, he found the Jungle Boy. He found a gas that floats things." He said, "Go ahead."
Yeah. I think the skippers had to do that a couple times for Gilligan.
I know, and you figure Gilligan's a young boy, or supposedly so. His back shouldn't be too bad, but who knows? And here's where Mr. Howell and Marianne first lay eyes on the Jungle Boy and believe him. It's not an it skipper, it is a boy. It's a Jungle Boy, they say, and they're all excited. And then Professor sees it too. I see it. Come on, Gilligan, let's grab them. And there they are trying
Skipper.
Skipper, I'm doing it again. And there they are trying to coax the boy over to them, and he doesn't seem to be listening. So Gilligan does it.
Yeah, no, I like Mr. Howell there. Come here, come here, boy. Then he doesn't go, goes, get over here, boy.
Right, with that
Goes
loud
straight to
booming
anger.
voice. Right, that loud booming voice. Children simply
Not
adore
many
me. They
actors, I
me
think,
as their
pulled that
jungle.
off to where you'd be laughing.
There it is, like a dog too. Come here, boy, and that's an order. Heel. And there's Marianne says, Mr. Howell, that wouldn't even work on a cobra. Cobras indeed. The boy obviously has gone to the wrong school, says Mr. Howell. And here's where Marianne tries to coax him and says, nobody's going to hurt you, sweet Marianne. I say, she's charmed, the little nipper, says Mr. Howell. So the boy finally confides in them and walks into the camp. And it helps, too, that it's Marianne. I think it's her motherly ways is what attracted the boy. And once again, I don't know why she's wearing those nylons. I can't wait till we get to the color episode to see if she wears nylons in those, too. But, we'll find out.
Well, it could have been that way that she's not technically showing leg. So that,
it could be. Well, they did that back then because it made women look tanned and it made them look more attractive, and also to hide blemishes.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, but also I think it's so she can wear the booty shorts there without the sensors going all fucking crazy.
Very likely. That's all right. That's also why she has that shirt pulled down where she's covering the belly button. Remember, this is back in the days where they weren't allowed to show a navel. So here they are talking to the boy. How close are we to Hawaii? How can we get off this? They're asking him and inundating him with several questions, and he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't understand what they're saying. And here's where they're growing frustrated, and they realize he doesn't understand. He's just repeating what they say. Love kids. And here's they're so excited. They're all trying to communicate at the same time, and obviously it's not working. So the girls take him back to, I believe, the Howl Hut. And they're going to try to work on him from there. Let me try. And there's Ginger's going to try her ginger ways. And it didn't work for her either. And then Mrs. Howell says, well, I'm afraid we'll have to start with the basics.
Girl,
go ahead.
I got a question here. Out of everybody, I think the professor would have been the most qualified to try to work with the boy.
That's possible, but I think that they chose women because the boy doesn't have a mother. As far as I think the writers of the episode.
Oh, then it should have been like just Marianne trying to work with the boy, instead of all three of them. Like, this is just confusing the boy.
Oh, it is definitely confusing them. And I think the reason why Marianne has the other two is I think Marianne felt that she was a little overwhelmed and she wasn't sure how to handle this. And in reality, Mrs. Howell is the best one. You think with her experience, she's probably got a fantastic education. So she's got a good education like Professor, not the same kind of education, but she's also... Now, they've already established that the Howells do not have any children. But being the fact that she has an education and she's a female, she would make a good mother figure for the boy, even though she's much older.
They establish she has an education.
I'm saying they established that she has an education. Mr. and Mrs. Howell both came from only the finest of colleges.
Okay, okay.
Right. And there she is wearing that brooch. Remember, that's the brooch that they showed in the episode where they found the gold mine. And it weighs 1 pound,
Okay.
remember?
I thought
Yeah,
that was her. I thought that was her engagement ring.
Well, that was the engagement ring. That's right. So, but here she's wearing a diamond brooch, it looks like. Thank you for reminding me of that. So they're basically pointing to him and saying boy, and then pointing at themselves and saying girl. He doesn't understand. He's pointing at himself and saying girl and pointing at them saying boy. So he's basically just repeating what they say. And by the way, I have to bring this up. There's that same door. We brought it up during every episode. That's the same door that serves as the Gilligan and Skipper's hut. But except with Gilligan and Skipper's hut, when you look out that door, you see the outside. You see trees and dirt and everything. So obviously what they do is they have a prop wall. They just move it in place to give us the idea that this is the Howell hut and that the Howell hut has several rooms, in my opinion. And here we are, Ginger trying to work with him. And he doesn't seem to like it, and he runs. And Mrs. Howell is trying to teach him manners. I can understand Mrs. Howell doing that, but honestly, the boy needs to learn English first, but oh well. At least she's trying. And she's actually saying where the spoon needs to be placed on the table, where the fork needs to be placed, and so on. And we cut to later that evening with the boy sleeping in the tree. And here's where she's asking Mr. Howell if she could talk to him. And he says, no, love, you can ask him and just so much. Yes?
When this scene first came up, I thought she was going to ask to adopt him.
They did? Did I miss that?
No, I thought that's what was going to happen.
Oh, okay,
I thought she was going to ask to adopt the boy.
That would have been a good scene when you think about it. If they would have said, but that would have got us into a whole different territory. If they would have said, you know, Thurston, we never really had a boy of our own. Why don't we adopt him? You know, that would be an interesting aspect. But then that would change the cast of this show. And then it would be, why am I getting alerts? Then it would be tragic when the boy left. It'd be like, oh my God. Then it'd be really like, I got to shut my phone up. There we go.
Yeah. And Nemesis says, if I was a boy, I'd go for the beautiful women than the scientists.
Well, yeah, me too, right? I play dumb. Booby, boob. Oh, I shouldn't say that.
Oh, that's fine on here.
And here's where Mrs. Howell is trying to give Thurston confidence. But after all, you're a great big grown-up man, she says. And he reminds himself by hugging his teddy bear, of course. And there's Mrs. Howell and Skipper watching the boy. And I really like this shot. This is a very cool one.
It'd be a good poster.
It would be.
Only it'd have to be in color.
It would have to be in color, yes. Well, I can tell you this. A lot of those... Go ahead.
I was going to say, but it'd have to be like 60s colors. Like the next episode or the next season's colors. That'd be a great poster right there.
Well, I can tell you this. That those establishing shots of where they show the island, you know, where they intersperse them and they show the moon or they show the beach and all those, a lot of them were actually shot in color because they knew they would be using them later on. So during this first season, they were converted to black and white. So later when we get to the color episodes, you're going to see some of those same scenes, but they will be in color.
Wait, I got a question. So why is the show in black and white?
1965, it was so expensive back then to film episodes in color that a lot of the shows did not do it because it was cost prohibitive. Television was just getting into color, and only the most expensive, high-rated shows were filmed in color. And what's sad is the difference in cost was only about $35,000. So many series that came out in 1965, and there's a lot of famous ones. For example, Gilligan's Island, Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie. They all started the first season in black and white. When they were renewed for a second season in 1966, they all went to color, and that's where they remained. Lost in Space, same thing. Lost in Space. First season was in black and white. Second season, by then the cost of color had gone down. By the time the second year rolled around, 1966 is when the networks realized they really didn't save that much money, and they should just go ahead and pay the extra for color. So that's why all the series converted to color. People were buying color TV sets. That was a big rage at the time, and a lot of the networks were advertising around that fact. So, for example, like NBC had their famous Peacock opening. It said the following program is brought to you in living color on NBC, and they showed that right before Star Trek TOS every week. And here's where Gilligan is showing them the gas.
And that's when the professor, the professor establishes that it's either hydrogen or helium.
Right. Hopefully helium, because hydrogen is explosive. Just ask the Hindenburg. And they say, don't they use helium to blow up dirigibles? It's like, that's funny you mentioned that, because yes, when the Hindenburg exploded, it was full of hydrogen, because during World War II, Germany was not able to manufacture their own hydrogen or their own helium. Germany could not get their hands on any helium. It was only in the other countries. So that's why Germany had to rely on hydrogen. So, but after the Hindenburg blew up, that stopped all production of all dirigibles inflated with hydrogen. So from that point on, all dirigibles were filled with helium because it's safer. You could just puncture it and it would just go flat. It wouldn't explode like hydrogen does. So that's why you see this comment here where they say, don't they just use helium to blow up dirigibles? Yes. And of course, Mr. Howell's talking about how he wants to get rich off of it. And he's talking about, oh God, that's an inappropriate term. And he says, and before I'm through, I'll have the whole country gassed.
Yeah, and just think, this was just 21 years after World War II. If that would happen nowadays, and it'd be like equivalent of us making a comment about planes flying into a tower.
Yes, it would.
Of course, that did stop us on my SimCity live stream that one day.
Right, but here's the difference too. Here's the other difference is back then when this was made, people weren't always looking for things to be offended by. Now they are. People are acted, even though a lot of them in reality are not offended, but they just want to complain, and they want to get attention. So in reality, that's the problem these days. Is you can't do that because people want attention, and they're going to claim that they're offended, and they want you deleted, and they want you erased or canceled or whatever they call it. So back then, they could make jokes like that lightly and be laughed at in a comedy, but that would not be accepted now these days, obviously.
Yeah.
So the professor has the idea that perhaps they could build a balloon if he glued raincoats together, the raincoats using tree sap from a rubber tree. And they could float one of us to civilization, is what he says, which is a great idea. And Mr. Howell's impressed. He says, Professor, there's a place for a man like you in my organization.
Does he ask like which organization?
Well, Mr. Howell was talking about the Howell Helium Company.
Oh, okay.
And here's where the professor built the girls a sewing machine. And Marianne is pedaling to make the sewing machine work. And there's the Jungle Boy watching them from a distance. And now we get a shot. Now we get a shot of the balloon. And as you can see, it's made from rubber rain jackets like the professor was talking about.
Well, now why did they have so many rain jackets on the minnow?
Well, I guess you would think, I don't know. Okay, first of all, I don't know if they would have that many rain jackets, but maybe they would have them in case they had a full boat of people who was caught in the rain. So I can understand them having some rain jackets.
Yeah, but
I'm not sure if they established how many they used.
Gilligan had at least 4 on.
At least 4 on. Yeah, we couldn't see that, but Gilligan came out and he was wearing one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other, like in layers. And here we can see at least 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 6 arms. And I'm wondering maybe they had rubber pants too. They didn't. They didn't bring that
maybe.
up. Yeah, they didn't bring that up. So there they are tying it up, making plans, and it makes a joke. What are you, some kind of knot or something? And the Jungle Boy likes it. He likes the interaction between Skipper and Gilligan. Dogs! Sorry. And here's where the professor says, Skipper, come here a moment. I'll have a brilliant idea. Oh, this is Mr. Howell. Why don't we tie the provisions on instead of the ballast? But the problem with Mr. Howell is that he doesn't like lifting the ballast. That the way we'll be killing two birds with one rope, says Mr. Howell.
Yeah. Hail, Captain Finity.
Hail, Captain Finity. Good to see you there. And we have Gilligan there struggling, tying up the ropes. They're basically making the basket. And they're filling the balloon with helium. And this is where Gilligan's hat accidentally flies up into the balloon because Gilligan is standing over the hole. And Gilligan starts to float up into the balloon, as we see here. Is this what you were talking about? Blurry?
No, no, it's when he's outside the balloon. I noticed
Okay.
it.
All right. Well, here's where Gilligan is supposedly inside the balloon, and he's floating around trying to grab his hat, and you can see the wires that he's suspended on, of course. That's what I mentioned earlier.
Oh, I can't really see the wires, but
one of them is right above his eye.
Okay, that's a wire. I thought that was just a crease in the thing. But
I'm glad you mentioned that. You notice how the balloon around him, how it has vertical lines going up and down. You see that?
Yeah.
That's why they do that, is to help hide the wires. For example, if they put that wire up against like a flat white background, you'll see it very clearly. But that's why whenever they do scenes like this, they'll always add other vertical lines to help hide the wires. And they're piano wires, by the way. So, and he's on two wires. One of them you'll see right above his eye, and the other wire you'll see right above his left hand, his thumb, and forefinger. You can see the wire. So basically on each side of his hat. If you look at each side of his hat, that's where the two wires are that are suspending him up.
Okay.
Let me do this really quick. Let me go here a little further, and there's where Gilligan goes up into the balloon. I'm gonna play the video just for a split second here, and you'll see the wires.
Oh, yep.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. I'm surprised you didn't notice that the first time you watched this. But what I thought was odd is that for some reason, Gilligan's doing this, acting like everything's in slow motion. And I don't know if they were doing that trying to make it look like he was drunk or that he was high from the gas.
Well,
I thought that was an odd choice.
Well, yeah, just to show them floating around. And I'm guessing they had to kind of do that so that the people controlling the wires could properly control him and keep up with him. And, instead of him flapping around trying to go around, that they could control him easier and probably for safety reasons.
Well, what I was thinking is back then, whenever they like Lost in Space is a good example too, and it was filmed on the same time. On Lost in Space, whenever they show the characters floating around in space, supposedly space, or let's say an area with no gravity, they always showed them moving in slow motion because they mimicked like they were being in space. So I'm thinking that's why maybe he was acting like he was slow. But like I said, I'm just guessing. I don't know. And also another thing too, if this is the inside of that same balloon, where are the arms? Right? Remember the arms that are sticking on the outside? Now it just looks like almost a completely flat surface. So obviously this is different than what we see from the outside. So there's Gilligan again. And they're saying, speaking of minds, where is Gilligan? And they're looking and they realize that Gilligan is in the balloon. And they run over. And he finally grabs his hat. And they reach up into they cap the rock, which makes Gilligan come down, and they pull him down. And now Gilligan lands to the ground. And Gilligan, what they're saying is, here they're saying he must be full of gas. He must have breathed in all that gas.
Yeah.
Because every time they let go of him, he starts to float in the air. Right?
Now, now if he should almost be dead or seriously hurt if he's inhaling pure helium with no oxygen there. That's
I was gonna mention that he would be dead. Actually, sorry, he would be dead. Or I know he was. He was. I know he was only in there for a few seconds, but I think he would be dead because he would be oxygen. He'd have to somehow get that helium out of his lungs and breathe in oxygen, or he's not going to last long. But at minimum, I'm sure he would be extremely ill.
Yeah, probably starting the onset of brain damage.
Yeah, very possible lack of oxygen. Now let's put him on that rock over there, Professor, says the skipper. They place him on the rock. Oh, let's check that balloon to see if there's any damage, they say. As they walk away, they head back to the balloon, and there he is.
You think one of them would have kept an eye on him, because I wouldn't trust Howell with that.
And there he is, where Gilligan is still floating around, right? This is what you were talking about?
Yeah, and you can see like the brush in the background on one of the scenes there is a little blurry right behind Gilligan's head.
I wonder if they had like a forklift or something back there. They could have had him on a forklift, the wires.
Looked like they edited out though. They're trying to edit out the wires.
They don't have that technology back then.
Oh, they did?
Now they can digitally remove wires easily, but they did not have that technology back then. That's why they had to do the best they could on camera to try to hide the wires. But there's two options. Either there's some men up in the rafters of the studio lifting him, or there's a forklift behind him and the wires are attached to a forklift. So that's the two possibilities. Skipper, come down here. We've got a lot of work to do. There we go. Now they're grabbing Gilligan. They bring him down. Artificial respiration. Only one thing I can think of, the artificial respiration. So now they're saying that he's full of helium. So Skipper basically squeezes the air out of Gilligan.
Yeah, he was enjoying that. But Nemesis says, I think that might be a representation that Gilligan is high from the fumes.
Yeah, another thing too, right? If they were helium, shouldn't he be talking in a high-pitched voice, right?
Yeah.
Oh well, right? I don't think they're gonna. That's just it, right? That's just it. There was a big drug scene back in the '60s, so I'm sure they were trying to dance around the subject without referring too much to drugs.
Well, helium's not really a drug.
No, but acting high is what I'm talking about. Yeah. Even though everybody knows from history that in real life, Bob Denver actually did partake in smoke pot. He was high several times on the set. So it was Marianne. And are you all right?
Marianne?
Marianne got busted years later. Yeah, she was already in her 70s when she was busted finally. I remember and I thought, that's sad. They shouldn't bust Marianne. She's cool.
Yeah. Well, did she actually spend time in jail, or did she just get a little fine?
No, a citation, right?
Yeah, because Willie Nelson's the only person that can get busted with 6 pounds of pot in Texas there and walk away with just a tiny ticket. He is the only person that can get away with that.
Yep, as long as you have money, right? And everybody loves Willie Nelson.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Snoop or 50 Cent could have gotten away with that. That was just a small fine, But it's Willie Nelson in Texas.
Right. And here's where Skipper says, all right, are you all right, little buddy? Did I hurt you? And no, Gilligan's fine. Hills are deciding on who should go up in the basket. And they're saying it's logical that the skipper should go. And they try to say all of them go up there, then they realize there's probably only that basket can only lift one person, and they're saying probably the skipper. And Mr. Howell says it could be him and Ginger could be his stewardess. Of course, that's all he thinks about. And they're saying, Mr. Howell, if you go up there, you be by yourself. And he says, what's that?
where's Mrs. Howell giving him the look? And we all
Right,
know the
no,
look
right?
we're talking about. That would have been
Yes,
perfect if it was shown to her. Just give him the old stink eye.
right. Even though we know Mr. Howell has nothing but the most honest intentions. And he says, "Oh my God, that's a tourist flight." When they told him there's only enough helium for one, and he says, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, that's a tourist flight." In other words, he would have no stewardess.
Yeah. Yeah, but Mr. Howell's just being about as honest as I am with that. As
Well,
I
I
would
know,
be.
right, right.
I
I would
got
say, yeah,
honest intentions.
you send me up with Marianne. That way, if I'm going to die, I at least want to die happy.
Mhm.
And here they are. They decided to draw straws. And Skipper's all happy. I won, I won, I won, I won, I think. And now he's not so sure because he realizes how dangerous it is. And of course, the girls immediately say, they come to the scene, and Ginger asks him, "When you land, will you please call my agent?" And of course, the Howells are telling him to call their business associates. "If you land in London, mention my name to the royal family," of course, is what Mr. Howell says. And you can see that it looks like the Howells did kind of take him in because they dressed that boy. That's the Howell clothing. That's Mr. Howell's hat.
Yeah.
So now they're explaining Gilligan cast off that sideline is what they're doing, and Skipper's getting ready to take off. And then they do the countdown. I'll start the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna try to see if I can show this. And they continue the countdown, and the balloon goes up in the air, or gets ready to. And there we can see. Unfortunately, though, the floor just breaks. There's Skipper throws the ballast, the weights right there. He's got the gourd. He throws them to the ground. The balloon starts to ascend and go up. And they're all looking excited, and then they realize the skipper's still on the ground because he's too heavy. And it broke the floor, and the balloon was taken off without him. So quickly they tell everybody to start grabbing the ropes. Yes.
I got a question. Well, when Mr. Howell decided to do the shortcut there and tie the gourd, the provisions on, instead of lifting up the ballast in there, when they untied the cords, could they just untied the floor?
Wait, say that again?
Okay, you know how they tied the gourds to the thing there to kill two birds with one rope and all that? Well, when
Right.
you untied the gourds, you could have just untied the floor.
Even accidentally?
Yeah.
Well, that's possible. But I think what they showed was the floor was made out of wicker. I think that's why it broke or busted.
Oh.
They could establish that as a joke. There's a boy watching them. And here's later on that evening, and they're kind of moping over it that their first experiment was perfect. The professor doesn't understand what went wrong, except one minor detail, and he realizes it was too much weight. And he says that's because the cargo was overweight. So, meaning the skipper was overweight, of course. That's you, Skipper, they say. Of course, Gilligan says that.
I still think you have lost a lot of weight by now. Being on that island.
Very
With
possible. And our computers across. Yes.
With no real carb heavy food. You basically got fruits, vegetables, and fish.
Right. Our computers across Pacific air currents, says the professor. The balloon has to rise to a height. So now he's giving details about the balloon. And they're trying to decide how to get it up there. And they realize that the balloon can only maybe lift about 90 pounds. And so they're talking about sending the boy up in the balloon and attaching a note to it, a rescue note, and let it go by itself. Actually, no. They say that's right. Gilligan, which has a really good idea, is to put a note in the basket and then let the balloon go up by itself. But when they leave, the Jungle Boy gets in the basket and leaves and takes off. And that's him heading up. And there we are with a little miniature effect of the balloon in the sky with the boy in the basket. And the castaways come out and they realize they have the note ready to go, and then they realize the boy's not around. And then Professor surmises that, well, we were talking about the balloon around him. And they realize, oh no, and they go to check on the balloon. And it's very heartbroken, of course. And she's Mrs. Howell concerned about the boy being up there by himself. And Mr. Howell says, I assure you, Mrs. Howell, he'll be perfectly safe. And Gilligan brings up the note, and Skipper reminds him, how are they going to read the note, Gilligan? So we have later that night, and they're listening to the radio. And there is a announcement on the radio. A balloon has landed on the deck of a United States aircraft carrier, it says. So the Howells, everybody hears that and start rushing in. And here's where the announcer says, and where he came from, they don't know, because all he does is mimic. But they said he knew that somehow he had to get in the balloon. He had to get help from somebody, but from whom?
And Mr. Howell, of course,
Skipper
had to
says
correct him.
But who?
Yeah. I don't know what the proper grammar would be.
That was very confusing. I get mixed up a lot of times, the difference between who and whom. And Skipper says that's about all they'll ever get out of him, too, unfortunately. Frustrated. And Gilligan says, you, Skipper, him, Professor, and me, Nut. And we go to our closing credits. And there we go. Hey, at least we got to this episode in about a half hour. Because I knew we spent a half hour just BSing, talking around. And now we're at 9 o'clock. We're usually done right about now. Ooh. I'm going to try to get through this episode in 30 minutes, everybody, because I know it's running late. So our next episode is Sir Gilligan and the Dragon. Let me pull that one up. And if any of you have any... Oh, I was so much of a rush tonight. I forgot to put a poll in the chat on which episode you guys like best. But I'm just going to ask you, because I don't have the poll up, and maybe you guys can give us your vote in the chat.
Yeah. Hey, Jill.
Hey, Jill. Welcome, Jill. We're just getting ready to get into our second episode.
Hey, Jill, are you streaming Friday?
Well, that's right. That's usually her plumbing tea time.
Because I don't have to work Friday, so.
Lucky you. Hello, Jill. So good to see you. All right. Let me cue up this next episode here really quick. And I got to make sure to mute it and all this other good stuff so we don't get flagged and all this other good stuff. There we go. And we get the screen size set. There we are. Oh, boy, this thing's... I hate Windows. I hate Windows. I hate Windows. Bill Gates, I hope you burn in HE double toothpicks. All right. And here we are with our opening scene and our heroes. And here we are. Everybody's headed off to the island. And there's our boat and introduction of our cast. And I want to point out something. Director Richard Donner. Everybody, the famous Richard Donner who directed Superman the movie, The Goonies, the Lethal Weapon movies, among many, many others. Which one? What?
Which Superman movie?
The only good one, Superman the movie from 1978.
Okay,
with Christopher Reeve.
Okay.
He directed the first two, Superman 1 and Superman 2. And during Superman 2, they kind of took it away from him and gave it to a British director. But he later on did go back and actually make a director's cut that came out. But he directed 1 and 2 of Superman the movie and Superman 2. The Lethal Weapon movies with Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. And the Goonies, I'm sure you all know who the Goonies are without me having to explain who they are.
Hey, you guys!
Right. And was it Truffle Shuffle and all that?
Yeah, we do that too. Do some of our coworkers every once in a while be like, "Hey, you guys!"
By the way, that house they showed at the beginning that the Goonies lived in just came up for sale recently. I saw it on the internet.
Oh, it did?
Yes, it did. So here we are, directed by Richard Donner, and here we are. We opening it with the campsite or whatever it's called, and they're
All right.
eating breakfast.
All right. The one thing I wanted to point out on this damn episode, this had to have been shot out of order because we're half a year in, pretty much. This is episode 20, and now they're all back into the exact same height, exact same hut that they were in the first episode. This would have been a great, wonderful episode 2, but no,
Yes.
they pushed this one back all the way to 20. And people who are watching this weekly, in order, be like, what the hell?
You're right. And let me explain what Gorilla's talking about, everybody. We were kind of talking about this before the stream started. Is when they first landed, they had the first episode or two, where they were working on building huts. And the huts pretty much fell apart. And then during the other episodes, they kind of established that the Howls had their own huts, the girls had their own huts, the professor had his own hut. But now all of a sudden, here we're on episode 20, and the problem is we open up with them having breakfast, and the girls walk in saying, we want our own huts. So now they're telling us after all this time that apparently they've all been sleeping in the same hut every single night. And I wanted to mention something too, because I think you're right. I think it's because they're showing these out of sequence. I wish I could show them in production order, because remember Gorilla in the first few episodes that I was pointing out, the Gilligan and Skipper would be in their hut, like sleeping or doing something, and Mr. Howell would step out from behind a curtain. Remember that?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, there were a couple episodes where they would show them in their hut, and then you would see like a blanket hanging, and Mr. Howell hiding behind the blanket. I can't remember which episode that was. So they were kind of hinting in that first episode or two that they were all in one big communal hut. But then later on, they actually showed the Howell hut, and we saw that in the last episode, in fact. But here, they're having breakfast. The girls come out and say it's time that they want their own hut, that they want privacy. And unfortunately, the boys aren't taking that seriously. Let me get my subtitles up and running here. Give me a second.
Oh, God.
Those subtitles.
Oh, God. Some of these people will go nuts over some of the stuff they said in this whole episode.
Right. This is what we were talking about also earlier. That, this episode would not go very well these days. It's very chauvinistic. I'll put it that way. Even by standards of today, I do not consider myself a woke person, but I do think that what they say about the women and to the women is very cruel at the time, because basically what they tell the women is that they're only there to cook and clean their clothing, which is really sad and very disrespectful. Because you would think, especially that's the other thing too, is why they should have showed this episode earlier. The fact that they waited until half of the season to show this, it makes the men really seem cruel. Because you're thinking, what, they made these girls sleep in the same hut them the entire time for half a year? So, yeah, it's too bad. We're showing these in broadcast order, but I should have showed them in production order. It's also, it's just a hunch. We're not sure. We're surmising and guessing by how they're introducing these certain plot points. So here's where Skipper is asking for the guava jelly. They're trying to ignore them, but the girls are asking for help. And Skipper says, I have the guava jelly. And the girl says, we've got to have some privacy. And Mary Ann's upset too. And Skipper keeps asking for the guava jelly. And this is where the girls decided, we're not going to serve you then. So the girls start taking the food from the table. Gilligan hands Skipper the guava jelly. And unfortunately, as Ginger is grabbing the plates, Gilligan accidentally, of course, spills the guava jelly on Skipper. Thanks a lot, Gilligan. Jelly? Guava is a plant. It's a fruit. And they just made jelly out of it. Just like you would, strawberries or anything else.
Okay.
Right. You can get guava nectar sodas at the store and juice.
I've never seen it, so.
Oh, okay. We've had other things that are more important, says the professor. And this is where, once again, they're dismissing the girls like it's not important. And here come the Howls saying, sorry that we're late for breakfast. And the Howls sit down. And when they tell the Howls what happened, they tell them the girls are on strike. So no breakfast for them. And Mr. Howell, and of course he says, you get two people together, they immediately organize every single time. And Mr. Howell is basically going along with the men and agreeing with them. As you can see, Mrs. Howell is listening to this at the same time. And the girls are saying, you won't keep your promises, we won't keep ours. So no more cooking and no more cleaning. And Mr. Howell says, haha, did you hear that, Lovey? Women should have the same rights as men. And he's laughing about it. Listen, you've been promising me to build a hut, says Mrs. Howell. I'll get to it by and by, says Mr. Howell, which means whenever he feels like it. And she even says, I'm not asking for anything elaborate. Just a little split level hut or a palm tree penthouse. Yeah, that's not elaborate.
Yeah. Well, to them, it's not elaborate.
Right. But not only that, though, for them, because it's a multi-millionaire house, that is kind of primitive and basic. So that's not asking for, it's not asking for just a square hut, but it is still more extravagant than what everybody else has. And here's where Mrs. Howell decides she's going to band together with the other girls. And she's talking about a famous woman in history from thousands of years ago. Lysistra was a woman who lived thousands of years ago and who basically stood for women's rights, and she was a role model for women. And Ginger agreeing with her, but Ginger's never heard of the name before. So Ginger tried to pronounce the word and mispronounces it. And she said, well, it's all Greek to me. And here's we're all laughing, ha ha. Yes?
Okay, we got a few chats, quite a few chats
Go
here.
for it. Yes,
Jill said,
I saw that on the chat.
Yeah, Jill said, I saw that movie for the first time this year. I loved it so much. I'm guessing The Goonies. We're getting wine from Euler. Hi, Jill. Hi, Greg. Please donate to support the community hut. Euler Greg says, that storyline is set for humor. It's not reality and shouldn't be analyzed as if it were.
Yeah, you're totally right. That's the point, is that we try not to overanalyze these where we ruin the humor. You're totally right. That's why I tell people that I recommend, even though you're watching this review, please go back and watch this show, because there are so many jokes that we're not able to cover. And when we're talking about it, it's just not funny, because it's even more like an analysis. This is something that I really thought a lot about before I even started these streams. I don't like to take anything away from Gilligan's Island, because we all know it's a comedy and it's a fantasy. So you can't inject too much reality into it and try to expect it to stick to reality. And I think one thing we're going to realize, we're still in the first season. So this first season covers a lot of dark things like poverty or like hunger when they run out of food, and with heat and other elements that they've had to deal with so far that we've learned. But I think as we go into season 2 and 3, the color, I think that's when it becomes more cartoonish and not so much based in reality. So, yeah, if there's any questioning, we're going to be doing a lot later when we get there.
Yeah. And Ola Greg says women and
You're
men
right,
play.
Ola Greg. Thank you for that, bringing that up.
Yeah, women and men play an intricate and complex dance as old as time itself. Oiler Greg says, but we need weekly humor, which is a different kind of thing.
Waltz, they called it.
The what? Oh, the waltz?
Yes.
Okay.
This was also made during the 19th. Did I miss something?
Oh, it's cutting out a little bit. But Oiler Greg says, but we need weekly humor, which is a different kind of thing. So relax and enjoy.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, Skogley says Elon's latest tweet. Okay, he says significant back-end server.
Go ahead.
Architecture changes roll out. Twitter should feel
architectural faster. Changes.
Yeah, something is definitely up. I'm thinking that's just an excuse. I think that
my Twitter stopped.
Yeah.
I think they're being hacked or something.
I bet you it's a DDS attack.
Ahead,
those things are. Oh, can't you hear me?
Yeah, I said go ahead.
Yeah, I think they're getting hit with the DDS attack. A denial of service attack.
Yeah, because mine's been. My Android, it seems to be okay with my Twitter, but my PC logged me out, and I haven't been able to get on all day. So there's something going on with Twitter.
Yeah, I bet you. I bet you that.
Now,
I bet you they're just saying that it's a DDS attack, but they don't want to admit it.
that's what we were saying with LDG, right? We think if this was a planned, timed upgrade, they would have told us. They would have said, "This is an upgrade. We're working on it. We'll have everything back." But the fact that they haven't said anything, which leads me to believe that maybe that they're being attacked from somewhere, because as we know right now, there's a whole world out there that hates Elon Musk. So it's very likely. I wouldn't put anything past. As we all know, also they're very ruthless.
Yeah. Hey, you've been cutting
And
out
not
here quite
altogether
a
honest.
bit lately. Hey, Pop Culture, you've been cutting out quite a bit for me. Is that on your end or my end?
It's my end. I'm checking my wires.
Okay.
All right. Hopefully this will be better. Plug. It's like I think I'm going to have to super glue my Ethernet cable into this laptop with a crappy design. HP laptop. Don't buy it, people. All right. But hopefully that clears it up. And I really apologize, everybody. I ordered more memory and everything for my computer that's supposed to be here this week. So I'm hoping I can get all that up installed this weekend. So maybe next week I'll start sounding better without the cutting out. And I do apologize for that.
All right.
It's like this, seriously, Ethernet. It just, the Ethernet has anybody who's seen Ethernet jack, it has a little plastic lock. When you put it into the slot, it locks in place. This laptop is designed to where it won't lock, so you can easily yank it out if you ever want to. But unfortunately, that means it comes out all the time, which is a terrible, and I don't like swearing, but it's a piss poor design. So we have the men laughing that was cutting out. This was during the 60s, during the women's lib movement. So this is, I think, the reason why they have an episode based around this. They called it bra burning. Women were burning their bras. That's right. And here's where Mrs. Howell decides she's going to join the girls, and she says, "Come on, girls." And here we are. We have the girls inside. Now they've established again. It's a communal hut. So apparently now it's a hut that they've all been living in, which is, we're like, okay, that's odd. But the girls are packing their luggage. And we can even see the door on the right-hand side. You can see the door partially open. And on the left-hand side, you can see the window. And that window is usually right next to the door. So you can see that they're moving around the set.
Yeah. And Jill says it acts like a lock if the lock is broken, but I guess if your laptop doesn't accept a real lock, then the tape won't work.
Yeah, what it is, Jill, is it doesn't accept the lock because it's where the Ethernet plugs in. It's like a flap, F-L-A-P, and you plug it in. It doesn't. There's no click. It just slides in because the laptop is so thin. There's no room. I'm guessing that's why is it there was no room to put a complete Ethernet jack. Captain Infinity, he was saying that he has a Mac laptop that has Ethernet jacks at all. So the Ethernet jacks may be something that they're going to start phasing out of laptops, which is, I think, a shame in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't have one either. I'd have to get an adapter.
And then see, that's the point, is that kind of ruins it. Having to have an adapter, and it's foolish because. And I know Captain Infinity disagrees with me, but Ethernet is faster than wireless by far. There's a big difference. But if you have a slow signal coming into your house in the first place, then it won't make a difference. If you have a slow signal, it's going to be a slow signal. So here we have Gilligan walking into the hut, and he's trying to convince the girls not to leave. And he says, "I sure wish you girls weren't doing this." And of course, and right so. Marianne is quite right. She says, "Well, these men must learn that we can take care of ourselves." And she's absolutely right. And here's Mr. Howell. Now, supposedly, now we have the blankets hanging around. And so now they're telling us that all these people have been living in one hut this whole time. And Mr. Howell sees Mrs. Howell packing, and of course he's trying to talk her out of it. And he's even trying to sweet talk her. I've watched over you. I babied you. But of course, he's got his teddy there with him, and he hides it. He wouldn't want her to take that. That is hilarious. I love that. That means more to him than Mrs. Howe. Lovey, darling, just tell me one thing, one last thing. What pill do I take at night before bed? And she hands him this bottle, and he says, "Oh, the Redsies." That is so funny. That's just like a married couple that the husband doesn't even know what pills to take, and the wife he had to rely on the wife for that. So here they are, Mrs. Howell actually struggling with heavy luggage as they're walking out of the hut. And Mr. Howell says, "You can't carry those heavy bags like that." And they interrupt them, "Thank you, girls." And they're telling them that you guys going to be scared out there. You'll be on your own. And they're telling them, "No, we won't be scared. We'll be just fine." And they decide, and they realize that in order to build a hut, we're going to need tools. So what tools do we have? So they start looking around, and Mary Ann grabs a big sledgehammer and realizes it's too heavy for her to lift. So she drags it, and as you can see, the men are snickering and laughing at her. That's what we said, everybody. This is not, I know it's not acceptable these days. And I don't know myself personally any men who treat women like this at all. But unfortunately, in modern day entertainment, they still treat men like all men are cads, like men are jerks, just like this. Well, men have not been like this since the 1960s. So since came around and women's rights, men are not cads, and they do not treat women like this anymore. There are some men that do, I'm sure, and whoever they are, they're idiots, and they're all behind in the times. But the majority of men do not treat women like that.
Yeah.
In fact, even when I've had relationships, I wash the dishes and all that. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jill said, "I already have to use an external Blu-ray player," and says, "Yes, the Ethernet makes every bit of difference." Scotty had the same exact issue. The difference is that he actually listened to me when I told him to get an Ethernet cable.
So I'm guessing that adapter is Ethernet into USB, and then plugs into a USB port, probably, right?
Or I got like more of like a rectangle thing here on the side, or like a different shape, a weirdly shaped thing. So I'm guessing they're gonna phase out the Ethernet into the. I'm guessing they're gonna phase out the Ethernet jack, but into a different style.
Well, that's what I was saying. Is the only port for an external monitor, and all those jacks are rectangular. So you're talking about is it's probably a USB. Here's what it is: USB port is a communications jack. So if there's going to be an adapter for an Ethernet, it's going to go to the USB port. It's definitely not going to go into the monitor port. So here we are, the girls struggling with their luggage. They were whistling and making fun of them and mocking them, which is really sad and degrading. But the women are determined, and there they leave, and we are in a transition. And here we cut to the women. They found a location for their camp, and they realize they'd like to rest, but then Mrs. Howe reminds them that they need to get their hut built before dark. They at least need to get the first stake up. There she says, we have to have a roof by nightfall. And she says, so as you can see, Mrs. Howe is taking charge. And says, of course, like a Howe, she's going to take charge and leave the labor to somebody else. We'll leave the first thing right there. But at least she does get in and help them. And she even says, I guess I better help. All right, now come on. So it takes all three ladies to lift the sledgehammer. And fortunately, every time they swing it down, it misses the stake.
Does that look like it's made out of wood?
I think it's supposed to be made out of a log, but it's probably, you're not going to have those actresses lift something heavy like that. So it's probably a fake wood, like maybe styrofoam or something.
Yeah, but even if that was a real log there, that could be more than 20 pounds. Maybe like 10 pounds.
Possible.
Because our metal sledgehammer at home or at work there is half that size, and that's a 5-pound one, and that's solid metal.
Gotcha. Apparently, this one is heavy enough. I guess go ahead.
It cannot be more than 10 pounds if it's made out of wood.
They might be exaggerating for the joke, I guess, because they're saying that the women are not don't have the strength because they happen to have the largest. The women do establish that there are smaller hammers back at the men's camp, but they have the pride. Their pride won't let them go ask for more tools, and they try a few more times. Each time missing the stake, and then they say, "Can we rest now?" And they realize we have to get the stake up. Now I guarantee those men will come crawling on their knees to get us back. They say. Meanwhile, we cut back to the men who are all confident, thinking they're doing great, and Gilligan is cooking dinner. And Skipper asks him what's cooking, and he says fish soup, fish stew. And the skipper notices it doesn't smell like fish stew. What's in it? And he says pineapple, coconuts, and wild berries. And he says, "Where's the fish?" And then Gilligan says, "Oh, I forgot the fish." And Mr. Owl comes in and says, "Oh, poor Levy, I don't know how she's going to manage without me." Of course, his pride will end up biting him in the butt here later on. Thank goodness. He must be lying somewhere on the beach, curled up and sobbing. No, not quite. And he says, "It's awful." Talking about the soup. God, it'll teach her a lesson. No, he means the stew tastes like awful. Oops, we got right into a little transition. So here we are. And it looks like the men are getting their beds ready. So remember now, I guess this is a communal hut. So we have the hammocks for the skipper and Gilligan, and over to behind Mr. Howell on our left are two cots, which belong to the professor and Mr. Howell.
Yeah. And I know that a lot of people would get upset. Oh, wait, we're not to it yet. Never mind.
And here's where Mr. Howell says, "This cleaning and sweeping is so exhausting." Sweeping what? Because, I mean, they've established, isn't the floor dirt? I don't think they built a floor on those huts. I don't know if they've shown, but I think the floor of the huts are dirt. But that's not important. We can't overanalyze, like Ola Gray said, you can't overanalyze a comedy, it ruins it. And Mr. Howell, conniving Mr. Howell, has a plan that he thinks will trick women into coming back. According to the Howell plan, he says, there's that ego. Here we cut to the women. It does look like wood, at least. Let me try to show this here. And the women are trying to nail that stake in, and they lift up the hammer. And unfortunately, they lift it up too high. They fall backwards. They all fall to the ground. And here's what they're talking about. They know that there's a smaller hammer that the men have, but their pride will not let them go ask for it. And Ginger says, "I have a way of asking. I know they'll do it for me." And Mrs. Howell says, "Yes, I know why, darling. Go and get it," says Mrs. Howell to Ginger. Meanwhile, back at the men's camp, they figure they're going to try to scare the women and make the women believe there's some sort of monster on the island. So Mr. Howell is helping the professor and Gilligan get into this suit. And there's Skipper, of course, is in the front, and Gilligan, of course, is in the back. And Skipper even tells him, "Gilligan, you're the tail, I'm the head because I'm the brain."
Yeah, Gilligan just doesn't want his head right next to Skipper's ass because Skipper will probably let out a big old long fart.
Right.
Just saying. Because I know I would crop, if I was in that situation, I'd purposely crop dust someone.
Crop dust.
Yeah.
I hadn't used that. I hadn't heard of that term, but okay.
Oh, crop dust is when like you're walking right past someone, you let out a big old long fart and just keep on walking. You crop dusted them. Let them sit where it's lingering.
I have to bring this up. Is several years ago, I rented a room from this guy. He had a house and he had a few roommates, whatever. And I rented a room. And my first day there, I remember I got all my stuff moved into my room and everything. And I thought, okay, I don't want to seem like a hermit and I'm just staying in my room all the time. So I'm going to go in the living room and hang out with the guys for a little while, kind of try to get adjusted and get to know them, right? So I go into the living room and I'm sitting there watching TV on the couch. And the guy who owns the house, Brian, I had to think for a second. His name was Brian. Did exactly what you said. And remember now, I did not know the guy at all. I just met him, just rented the room. So I'm sitting on the couch watching TV, and he's going about doing his thing. He walks by me and lets out this big fart. I don't know if he did it as a joke. He didn't lie. He didn't say anything. But I got up, went to my room, and I never went back to the living room again. I never hung out in the living room again. I was there for 2 years. And I stayed in my room the entire time because of what he did that one time. And here's where they're arguing to get inside the suit. And Gilligan saying, well, maybe we can have a dragon with 2 tails. And unfortunately, unbeknownst to the men, Ginger's over behind this tree watching and noticing what's going on. And they're all saying, I can't wait until dark. Yeah, yeah. And they're all planning on this. And they're all fighting and struggling, which is funny. Here they are arguing and struggling with the suit. And here the girls have somewhat of a makeshift shelter put together, which is good. You can see it's getting dark. So just here's Skipper and Gilligan bumping into each other and still arguing about the suit. And Gilligan saying, well, you need to stop. And because I guess Skipper's walking and he stops and Gilligan runs into him. And there we are. There's their creature. And they're roaring to try to scare the ladies. And at the same time, they're continuing their arguing, of course. And the ladies are acting like they're afraid. Listen to that lovely sounds of... Oh, first they're saying, when they hear the howling, listen to the lovely sounds of a tropical evening. And the boys hear that and realize they need to make the roaring louder. So they're roaring. All right, let's get over a little closer, says Skipper. And the girls, knowing what's going on, are just playing a ruse with them, saying, did you see something move out there? And feeling like they're afraid, Mrs. Howell says, oh, we must protect ourselves. We must fight it off, she says loudly so they all can hear it. And send its head back to the men, she says. And when they hear this, they're like, oh, no, they want to kill us. They got to catch us first. And they immediately, here's the women with pokers made of bamboo, and they go out and they immediately start attacking and poking the creature, only to find out it's Skipper and Gilligan, of course. And they're trying to come up with an idea of why they're trying to do that, and they're coming up with a couple lies that don't. Skipper's mistake is he's relying on Gilligan to come up with a story. And they finally admit, we were wrong. And here we cut the next day, and the boys are having to wash their own laundry, and they're using rocks.
Yeah. With them beating with the sticks, those bamboo poles wouldn't hurt that much.
No,
that they're beating them with. I guess they were thin enough that they could probably leave a mark, you know. The like thicker ones would have hurt them, but the smaller ones might act like a stick when you purposely go whack someone with the damn stick.
Right, like a whip mark.
Yeah.
And here's where Skipper said, here's where Professor walks onto the scene, and he's trying to thread a needle. He's having trouble with it. And Gilligan, unfortunately, gets in the way, and he accidentally pokes Skipper's thumb. And then that's when Gilligan says, we either need to get stronger clothes or softer rocks, because they noticed, we try to show this. The professor turns around. He says, Gilligan, thank you for washing my clothes. And then he turns around, and his shirt are full of holes. And that's what Gilligan did to his shirt. Thanks, Skipper. Boy, I sure need this, he says.
What happened to that washing machine they had?
Yeah, I know, right? That was the same episode. Was that last episode or this one? It was this one, right?
That was last episode. That professor built a wash.
So now we're back to right, and that's another sign that this episode probably should have been shown early in the series, right after they were shipwrecked, because they haven't established a way to wash the clothes yet. So they're washing them with rocks like people did in the old days. I do honestly think this episode was, I'm going to do a little more research, but I do think this episode was filmed early in the series. You get back to scrubbing those clothes, says the skipper. But take it easy this time. Our clothes won't last forever. Here comes Mr. Howell saying that dinner is served. We don't care how we're... And Mr. Howell says, do you mind if it's well done? And they say, we don't care. And he says, how well done? And they realize, well, how well done is it? And he says, it's ashes. And now the men are discussing, we've got to prove this to the women that we don't need them. And At the same time, women are saying we're proving a principle. We don't need those men. But at the same time, as we all are realizing they do need each other, and if not for manual labor, but for companionship, and that's what they're realizing now. Is it's also just because they're friends and they miss the women in their companionship. So we have the skipper and Gilligan in their hammocks. To the right there, you can see the professor laying on his hammock and he's listening. Over behind the skipper is Mr. Howling and his gut. But they're saying, right, those women have caused us enough trouble. I do sure miss the ladies, they keep saying. There's Mr. Howell. Now he comes in. Well, here we are. It's Betty by time, and he's got his teddy with him. And Gilligan says, "You're more dressed up to go to bed than I am to be awake." And there we are. Mr. Howell gets in bed with his teddy. And you can see he does honestly miss her, and he says, "Good night, lovey," wherever you are. And the professor admits to the women. And by the way, there was a mistake in this episode because earlier in this episode, Mr. Howell said they've been together for 19 years. But here in this scene, he says we've been together for 22 years. So there is a flaw within the same episode. And here we are, a very chauvinistic statement. If women would just act the way we wanted them to. Well, I'm sure women feel the same way about men, right?
Well, got that said nowadays they'd be burning down the studio.
So they
And
all drift off.
Especially this dream right here would have their studio burnt down.
I probably would, right?
Yeah.
So our heroes drift off into sleep, and we start with the skipper having a dream where he's a Maharaja of a harem. And there are the girls serving after him literally hand and foot. And they're dancing with the music, and they're giving him berries and food. And he's enjoying it, of course. And there he is, having his dream. And now we show Mr. Howell having his dream. And in his dream, Mr. Howell dreams that he's getting a massage and that he's in a high fashion, well, it's not a beauty parlor, but it's for men, obviously, whatever it is he's getting manicured and getting his hair done and his nails done. Mrs. Howell is doing his feet. What I thought was interesting about this episode 2 is Marianne's hair. She's wearing her hair differently, and she looks older, but very, very sexy in the way she's dressed. This is Mrs. Howell painting his fingernails, and she has champagne in that bucket next to her, and she even poured champagne over his feet. And of course, Mr. Howell says, "You don't mind the lovely girls, do you?" What's that?
I wish I could afford to waste champagne like that, let alone afford champagne.
Right. And of course, Mr. Howell, when she pours it on his foot, he even can tell what year it is. But you notice part of his dream, he says to Mrs. Howell, "You don't mind the two lovely girls, do you?" And she says, "No, not at all. Of course not, darling. Anything to make you happy." Obviously, only in a dream. Otherwise, there's no way she would go for that.
Yeah, I'll be happy when I get half your shit.
Right.
The divorce.
And there she is pouring the champagne on his feet as he wakes up. And now we cut to the professor. Easy, girls, easy, easy. And the professor is dreaming that he's a famous movie star coming out of a stage. And the girls are acting like teenage girls, literally. And the professor says there's enough for me to go around.
All right.
And he, yeah.
Oh, I was just about to say, with that comment there, I'm biting my tongue. We said they're acting like a bunch of teenage girls. I'm biting my tongue.
I know a lot of people are thinking, "Wow, there's no, where's the set?" You know, this reminds me of, a few of the season 3 Star Trek episodes where it's just black. Well, it was to save money, obviously. So yeah, it was a studio, but they just put some smoke in there, and they have a prop door, and that's about the extent of it.
Well, that could be the real door for all we know. And they just filmed it in front of the door.
Well, no, you could tell the door is in front of the wall. You can tell the wall is at least a few feet behind it, several feet.
Oh.
And every time I see you, I get Mrs. What's funny about this episode is Mrs. Howell is talking like a 60s teenage girl using vernacular that a teenager would say, and I think that's kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
Hear me, I don't even know if I'm an actor or a virus, says Mr. Howell. Mr. Professor, I mean the professor. What's that? Gorilla?
No, but you talk about that door there. They could have probably saved a shit ton of money just filming the real thing instead of building one.
Right, but you got to remember now, they're going to put whatever it is under the light so they can light it easily. So if they were to like just say, well, let's shoot the real door, well, they're gonna have to move a whole set of lights over there and the mics and all that to get a good shot. So it's easier just to film it under the studio lights.
Okay.
And I'm sure they have prop doors laying around from other shows and movies. So I don't think they even built it for this. I'm sure it was laying around.
Hey, maybe it's the Twilight Zone's door.
Yeah, it is similar to the Twilight Zone, isn't it? And here's where the girls are seeing. We have pictures all over the wall and the ceiling, all the collectibles. Even on the floor, yeah, wall to wall, says Mrs. Howell, but of course she's a teenager here. We take off your shoes and we'll walk barefoot through you. We take off your shoes. So they're obsessed. Here's where it's kind of like the Beatles, and they start ripping off his clothing. And he's waking up, and he's struggling with his clothing, saying, no girls, no girls. And there you can see him with his shirt open. And he realizes it and closes his shirt. And now, of course, last but not least, we cut to Gilligan having his dream. And here he's a matador.
And the most innocent out of all four of them.
It was. Most innocent. They're not slaving after him. They're telling him he's heroic and everything, but he's not treating them as demeaning as the other men are in their episodes. Gilligan is more innocent. I think he's more childlike at heart. But that's my opinion. And here we have Ginger playing a senorita saying, you are the most heroic bullfighter in all of Spain. See, I suppose I am. I have a present for you. There we go. A new sword, she says. He pulls it out, and it's just a short knife. That would be me in my dreams. Somebody gives me something, I think, wow, and I open it up, and it's a tiny little knife. That would be me.
Hey, wait. You'd actually get a knife?
I guess so, right? If I was lucky.
Your dreams are better than mine would be.
It would be empty for you?
Yeah.
And then Gilligan says, now the little bulls will have a chance. And here we are with Mary Ann looking very... Sorry, I got a noisy car or something outside. Mary Ann looking great, and Mrs. Howell dressed as a senorita once again. It looks like the same costume she used in the dream sequence when they were in the Western days. So they're both trying their best to... They're all trying their best to use Spanish accents. They're not doing it very well, but it's a comedy. Darling, look what I have brought you, Mexican beauties. And she says Mexican. So that's why it does say M-E-J in the subtitles. She says Mexican. All of this would definitely not be accepted now. This would definitely be censored and canceled because obviously they're not allowed to act like they're acting like Spanish because they're not really Spanish. And I'm not going to bring any of that up because I hate those people that do that. So, here they go. Oh, let me kiss it. And they're all fawning over him. And he's acting like he's Toro with the bull. And he's saying, Olay, Olay. And we cut to him being awake. And Skipper wakes him up and says, you must be having a dream. And he's still dreaming. And he says, you are beautiful, senorita, as he looks at the Skipper. And Skipper tells him to get dressed and go outside and sit. And we see the professor waking up there. And it's still nighttime, so that's why they decided that none of them, they say we can't sleep, so let's just go out and talk. So they're outside, and once again, all they're talking about are the women. And Professor Skipper tells Gilligan not to say women again. And he says, okay, tell me the truth. I'm going to miss the ladies myself. So he uses a different word other than women. And we cut back to the ladies' very small hut. And Mr. Howell has an idea. There's no point in being stubborn. He's going to go apologize to the women. And he says he should be the one to do it because none of them want to lower themselves to apologize to the women. Their pride keeps getting in the way. So Mr. Howell says, quarters first. The quarters first. It'll be the least embarrassing, he says, because he's married to the women, so it would be more understandable if he goes and apologizes. And there he goes. And of course, he's expecting everything to go his way. So he gets to the door of the hut and he starts whistling. Lovey dear, haha, they must be asleep, he says. Oh, Lovey dear, as he calls her, and they throw out a bucket of water and drench him with water. And so he's a little frustrated, but then he tries to talk to her again, and they throw out a second bucket of water. And that's when he realizes that's not working, and they're laughing at him, mocking him, sneaking around like that, peeping Toms, they say. And the men are surprised, and he comes back. Howell, just cool off, they tell him. And he says, cool off, I'm drenched. And here's where you see these balloons. And this was interesting, too, because I had not seen this episode since I was a kid. But I do remember this shot right here. I remember even as a kid thinking, what is that? What is that? But they see this in the distance, and they don't know what it is. The ladies see it, and they think, oh, those men, they're up to more silly tricks. So those men are playing monsters again. So there they are. And they can't think we'd be foolish enough to fall for that again. And then the men in the background see the same thing and walk up to the women, and they're behind the women. And it just shows how silly they are, men, I mean. So this is how. And when the men walk into the scene, the women are still laughing, saying they don't believe it, until they turn around and see the men and realize that's not the men. And then they run behind the men for safety and says, look, there's something there. And this is where Skipper, whatever that is, and Skipper's saying, be careful, and hush and shush and all that other good stuff. Sure is weird looking. Skipper, let's get out of here, says Gilligan. And of course, Skipper says we can't, one of us got to keep an eye on it, while the other one goes back and tell the others. And Gilligan says, okay, I'll see you later. And of course, Skipper says, no. I'll volunteer on that. You'll do as I say, he says. Aye, sir. Keep an eye on it, says Skipper.
Yeah, that's Skipper's mistake.
That is Skipper's mistake. And so Skipper goes back to tell the women. And as the Skipper's telling the women, Gilligan decides to be our brave hero, and he's got a shield. I think it's supposed to be a shield or camouflage. And a pole.
Camouflage.
Camouflage. Like it does a lot of good. And he approaches, and he's our brave and daring Gilligan. Oh, you stupid monster, I'll save us, he says. This goes to show, like I said before, Gilligan's heart's in the right place. So him not knowing what it is, he is willing to risk his life. And now the professor recognizes and said, wait a minute, that monster suddenly looks very familiar. Familiar, says the Skipper. Yes, he says he recognizes those are weather balloons. We always have radio equipment. We're saved. They're all excited. And we cut back to Gilligan with his lance. Ready or not, here I come. And he approaches and starts popping the balloons. And there's a burst of air as the balloons are popping. And he's attacking and banging on them. And he says, brains. And he starts hammering, which is, we find out, to be the radio. He's hitting it with the pole. And now the castaways approach him. And Gilligan's happy with himself, saying, look, I killed the monster. I saved us all. And Professor Skipper holds it up and says, no, Gilligan. And he holds it up, and Gilligan says, USAP? No, Gilligan. Yeah. United States Air Force balloon.
Yeah. DJ Ronnie says, saying, get one of the good USB-C media hubs like the Ankler USB-C media hub. They even have one with built-in Ethernet, but it's cheaper to keep a regular USB Ethernet adapter attached. The Anchor USB media hub without Ethernet is $35. Our normal EBS says Ethernet is like 10 to 15. Step up models, tissues $80. Last I checked the figure. My point. Okay, let's talk about your Ethernet cable.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It's good to know. I didn't know they had hubs with built-in Ethernet port. That makes sense, I guess, these days now.
Then one Wi-Fi rules them all. Oh, Wi-Fi. Yeah. There must be like an
Wi-Fi.
autocorrect when you type in Wi-Fi, it automatically switches to wife. Because I've noticed
It's
that on
terrible.
quite a
It
few
is.
chats. I've noticed
Yeah,
that
I
in
think
quite a
maybe
few
he's on a
chats.
phone. Yeah, I think it's maybe a phone because the phones have the autocorrect.
Yeah.
And here's where they realize the balloon, and you can see Skipper is not very happy with Gilligan, and Gilligan feels terrible.
Yeah. I don't think that pole would smash that radio unless they're a lot flimsier than I think they would be. That radio thing. He may have dented the box, but I don't think you'd actually damage the little transmitter.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe it was already damaged from falling out of the sky. And so we have the professor, and Skipper is trying to put the radio back together, and he's frustrated because he says it's too broken. And the professor says, Skipper, I've been thinking. And he says, what do you mean? He says he can take those balloons and sew them up and repair them, and they can send a message up in the balloons. And then Skipper understands. He says, exactly, a plane or a ship will spot it. So now they're all excited, and just as they are, Gilligan approaches and says, look what I got for skirts, for dresses, for the hut. And they realize that Gilligan took those balloons and cut them up and made clothing and other things out of them. So unfortunately,
Did you notice that Ginger was wearing the SS Minnow dress again still?
oh, absolutely. That's from the Skinner, the minnow sail.
Yeah.
And I wish we could play this. I wish we could play the closing of Gilligan's Island ballad, but of course we cannot, or we will get stricken.
Well, how long is it?
Too long. You could play a small clip and we'll get stricken because it's so recognizable. We can play something that's not recognizable and we'll probably have better luck. But Gilligan's Island theme is so recognizable, you can probably play 2 tunes and get stricken.
Okay, see,
and DJ Ronnie, go ahead.
I was having good luck with my Waltons ones there. They haven't hit me yet, and even last week I played the entire epilogue and synopsis.
Did you play any of the music, the opening theme?
No. Well, I had a little bit of trouble finding the spot and all that. I played like a couple seconds to the opening theme, but I played the opening synopsis where they're reading like what's going to go on in the episode and what happened and how he's going to remember that shit for years on afterwards, the synopsis part.
I guess the bots aren't tuned to the Waltons very much.
I guess it's not nearly as popular as Gilligan's Island. Also, I think it depends on who makes it too, because Disney lets you get away with a lot more than Paramount does.
Yep, that's true.
Because Disney recognizes, hey, if they're talking about this could help us.
Yeah, I wanted to shout out DJ Ronnie G. Thank you for stopping by. And like I mentioned earlier, I was struggling. My Twitter was down, and I couldn't get it to work right, so I was late getting the stream started, and I forgot to place a poll in the chat. But if you guys would like to, those of you that are still around for the chat, if you'd like to vote, which episode you like best, Gilligan and the Jungle Boy or Sir Gilligan and the Dragon.
Yeah,
if you'd like to vote, feel free to.
Yeah, I'm going to say that the Jungle Boy one was way better, because this last episode just reminded me, well, a couple of the jokes, personally, even for 1960s, they went just a tad bit far, but they also say humor is half the audience laughing and half the audience going, did you just really say that? But also, it just reminded me of all the shit that we keep getting reminded of today of people bitching about stuff, and that's not the episode's fault. It came out 60 years ago, but with the way today's crowds are and the bitching that people do, that just brought out this. That it just reminded me in this last episode.
Well, it looks like the Beaton agrees with you. That was the Beaton's joy. Right. And that's why we have different opinions. What's interesting is I actually liked the second episode better. And the reason why I liked it was because that topic would never be able to be handled these days. So it's great to be able to watch it, how they handled it back in the days when they were innocent.
Yeah.
And it did. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the reason I don't like it It just keeps reminding me of everything that everybody's bitching about. I'm constantly hearing it.
Well, don't let that spoil older stuff for you.
Yeah,
You
no,
got
it's not
turn that newer
spoiling it
stuff
for
off.
me, but this episode was just like a big, like I'm not saying it in a bad term, but it's kind of like a slap in the face of what we're constantly hearing today. It's just kind of like not gonna go, hey, back to the '60s, we were allowed to do this and no one bitched about it, type deal. Not saying it's a bad episode, but I'm also saying it just,
No, I understand.
yeah,
Right. And that's why I stipulated that this is how men used to think. They don't think this way anymore. But woke propaganda in Hollywood treats men like they are still like this, which is not true. And like you said, they haven't been like this for 60 years. This episode is 60 years old. So the fact that, uh, wonderful Jill, I love Jill, but she was playing a game last night, a video game, and it was doing exactly this. It was saying that men were like this, and it showed a man talking down and degrading and insulting a woman. And men just, that's what I was telling Jill, they're not like this anymore. So I could take it back in the day. I can watch this because back in the day, it wasn't seemed as sensitive as it is now. And back then, men were like that. There were a lot of chauvinistic men. That's the reason why we had women's lib. That's the reason why we had the burning of the bra movement and all that. But the fact that that's 60 years ago, but some single women in Hollywood and the gaming industry seem to think that men are still like that. And the reason why they think that is because they never had a relationship with a man. Like She-Hulk is a perfect example. There are a bunch of narcissistic women who've never had a man. They just go from man to man to man, and they never get a relationship. And that's the reason why they're single, and they don't realize it. But that's politics, and I don't want to get into that.
yeah.
Oleg
Good
Gray says,
morning.
true, Pop.
Yeah, good morning, Dialect.
Good morning, Dalek451. And Dalek, if you can, tell us what time it is there. How early is it for you? I feel bad, Dalek. We're getting ready to wrap this up, Dalek. I'm so sorry. Because for us, this is late.
It's 6 a.m. for him.
6 a.m. Wow. Yeah, that's definitely on the opposite end of the spectrum from where we're at. It's we're going on 10 p.m. my time. And unfortunately, I feel bad. We're going on midnight for Gorilla. And the poor man does have to work tomorrow.
Yeah, easy day. I'm hoping
I
it's
know.
half the day, but you know how the office is going. They're going, let's have a full day. We're going to do a lot better than we did the last time we did the company cleanup. Bullshit. But come about 11:30 noon, people are going to just start fucking around, wandering around, and finally they'll say, all right, since you guys aren't doing anything, go home.
That's great. And Nims Zavine says, hail, Dalek451. Hope your day goes amazingly. And Oleg Greg says, it was a small minority of men like that, even 50 years ago, as I remember. Yes, Oleg Greg. Thank you for clarifying. Yes. Even then, right, it was only a small group of men. Just like now, it's a small group of very vocal people. But men have not been like that in, I would say, almost 100 years. The women's rights movement, in the early 1900s, was moving forward. Remember Rosie the Riveter, everybody? World War II? So I think that, things are changing long before that. It's just that, I don't know. I don't like the fact that Hollywood, they're so narcissistic. They tell us that men are still like this when we all know that men are not. And even real women know that men are not like this. And that's the reason why all this woke garbage is failing. At least in my opinion, that is. I'd like to thank everybody in the chat. And I'm sorry, Gorilla, I know we're going on 2.5 hours.
No, you're fine.
Nemesis of Eden, thank you for being here. And Scogly, wonderful Scogly. Resolute Germ, thank you for being here. Nemesis of Eden, I said that. Scogly. Euler, great, thank you. LDG, I know popped in for a little while. And I hope I cover everybody here. Even I got one bot on here I'm going to ignore.
Yep.
Captain Infinity was here for a little while. And the wonderful anti-derivative Jill is here. And that may be it. If you guys liked what you saw or heard tonight, please hit the like and the subscribe button, the notification bell. Share this with your friends. I don't have a lot of people out there yet. My channel is slowly growing. I just recently surpassed the 100 sub mark. And I usually try to mention everybody in the chat and thank everybody, because without you guys, I would not be here. And also to everybody on the rerun, if you're watching this, thank you as well. I hope you enjoyed it. We will be back next week with 2 more exciting, fantastic episodes of Gilligan's Island. I would say hilarious because they are hilarious, but they're not because we were not able to cover all the jokes. So once again, I recommend that everybody please watch these episodes yourself. If you can, even better, watch them before we do our reviews, and that way you can enjoy them along with us, and maybe you can join the panel. I do put the link in the chat there for anybody who would like to join the panel and talk to us about it. And Nemesis of Eden says, always a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Nemesis. Thank you. And then I'm saying, thank you, Nemesis. Thank you. And Ola Greg saying, blaming men gives certain women a reason to be toxic themselves. That's basically what happened. Well, they victimize themselves. They think themselves are constantly victims. And Dalek451 says, okay, you're wrapping up. Have a good night. I'm sorry, Dalek. Yes, I need to. My work schedule is crazy. I hate having to do these things at night. I know a lot of people do the stream during the daytime. They get a lot more viewers, but I'll try to work on that if I can. And before we go, Gorilla, tell us about your channel.
Well, I do watch parties, reviews, and then I started up a thing that's been going pretty good called Random Thoughts with Gorilla. I'll pick a specific topic for the day, and we'll start off with that for usually it can last about 10 to 20 minutes. But then then it usually kind of wanders off into other things, which I don't mind. But
Right.
like our last one was why do we give the old shows a pass on stuff, versus like the new shows, they don't get the same courtesy. We had a wonderful chat on that.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Yeah. And I'm gonna be doing another one here either maybe Friday or Monday. Tomorrow we are reviewing the Waltons episode, The Typewriter. I kept saying that wrong for the last week. So we're doing The Typewriter. Then on Saturday's Babble at 5. Then we're starting Dystopian Sundays there with Brave New World.
Very cool. Very cool.
And I always do a Stranger Things watch party on Wednesdays. That's why the stream's so late.
Right. So that your Stranger Things watch party is just before the Gilligan's Island stream.
Yep.
And tentatively speaking, we may be moving the Gilligan's Island stream to Tuesdays. We were thinking about. We're still hammering out the details.
Yeah, and in a couple weeks there, or like 3 years. Yeah. Let's see, we did 4 and 5 today, so 6. So 3 weeks we will be starting the season 4 of Stranger Things. So if you want to see season 4 and if you've seen the other 3 seasons and you haven't seen season 4, come join us on Wednesdays.
Very cool. And on my channel, as you guys know, on Mondays, I cover Star Trek, the animated series for now. We only have a handful of episodes left on that. And on Tuesdays, you'll find me on the wonderful Anti-Derivative Jill's channel, where we cover the fantastic Star Trek, the original series. And as you see, we have my Gilligan streams on Wednesdays. And usually once or twice a week, I'll do an open mic, open panel stream called Musings and Rumblings for the Lab, where everyone's invited to come on up and talk about anything but their heart's desires. And Ola Greg, good night, everyone. Stay positive. Yes, Ola Greg, thank you for being here. And I'm sorry, Dalek, that this is so late for you, or early in your case, I guess. Yeah. But I will be closing this out, and I want to thank everybody being here. Like I said, it means everything to me. Without all of you, I wouldn't have a stream. So stay warm and stay safe. And by the way, have a happy New Year's. I hope we can have a stream sometime in the next few years. We'll have a New Year's Eve stream on one of our channels.
Oh, that reminds me. I'm going to find a date, and I will be doing my karaoke stream there to fulfill my promise.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
And New Year's Eve is Saturday night, right? So maybe we'll do a stream on Saturday night. Yeah,
but I did promise, though, and apparently there's video evidence out there the night when I got really drunk, hence why I haven't drank since, that I'll be singing Barbie Girl if I hit 275 by the time the ball drops, and I'm currently sitting at like 306 or something like that. So
that sounds like you owe it.
I promise.
Yep, it sounds like you owe us.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I haven't drank since that night.
Dalek says it's fine, Pop. I was listening for about the last half hour. So, okay, great, Dalek. Okay. Yeah. So with that, everybody, please have a wonderful night. Like I said, stay safe, stay warm, and take care. And we will see you all soon.